Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse. This is episode 309. This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together every week to talk about DC Comics. And I'm joined as always by Matt.
Yes. As we know, 9 comes after 6.
That is true. That sounds like you're making a sex joke, Matt, to be honest. They don't have context.
Yeah, no, we'll just leave it with no context. It's fine.
Okay. Basically, before we start, I said to Matt, what episode number are we on? And he went, 306. And I said, nah, it's definitely after that. And he went, 8. And it was 9. So,
right.
So here we are.
I'm saying, if we were playing closest to the poll, I still would have won.
Yeah. Also, apologies. Now, I only just discovered this like 5 minutes ago, but last week Matt's audio was pretty rough, and I would blame Matt for this, but truth be told, I didn't notice it when we were recording, so I'll take the blame equally. But his computer had defaulted to the mic on his earphones, so his audio quality was quite rough and iffy last week. So apologies for that. It's all back to normal now, though.
Yes.
So at first I thought you just had it turned up too loud and it was distorting, but then luckily we caught the gremlin.
Just yelling into this because it's close.
It's also shitter quality, Matt. You got a proper mic there.
Yeah. I'll never forget when we did a show with Stu, and my microphone did the thing that it used to, where just he told me to take the microphone out of my mouth. That still kills me.
That's a very used thing to do, though, to be fair.
Yeah, take the microphone out of your mouth. Oh, Stu.
Yes, Connor's not here. Connor, we knew he was missing this week. He is in an undisclosed location, sitting by a pool, reading lots of books from Twitter records, anyway.
Look, I know he's a ginger, but he should not be sitting on the poolside reading books. He's going to be engulfed in flames.
He's going to burn.
And again, I don't know where they went. It's an undisclosed location. That's cool. I'm glad he's having... You figure you leave somewhere not to go sit by a pool? I don't know. Maybe I was raised in the desert and pools are ubiquitous. But...
I feel like every time he goes on holiday, I always see the same thing. He just sits by the pool. That's all he does. I'm like,
that's great. If that's your idea of a vacation, we went up to Big Bear and we hung out in the cabin, but we walked the lake and we went to the Big Bear Zoo and we did the Alpine roller coaster. But then we would go back and hang out in the cabin.
To be fair, outdoor pools aren't really a thing in the UK because the weather's not good enough for it. So I suppose technically you have to travel for the privilege of the outdoor pool.
But he's been talking about drinking and reading, which I feel like that's his brand anyways.
You could say I could do that anywhere. Right. I mean, Jake ever actually gets in the pool and swims?
I don't know.
I'm not sure if he does. I'm not sure if he ever actually, because in one hand it makes sense after a day of sitting there. Oh, maybe he gets in for a swim before he goes back inside the hotel, perhaps. Maybe that's how he wraps up his day. Maybe he starts the day that way, gets a bit of exercise, then he sits and reads a book and, indulges his alcoholism. I don't
know. Let's see. How about you use the pool for what it was intended?
This is great audio. Just
yes, it is.
Live tweeting.
Yeah, I gotta live tweet him. I'm gonna shame him.
Oh dear, this is a DC Comics podcast. We'll get an update hopefully about Connor's pool antics in a minute, but this is a podcast where we get together, we have read some DC books, we talk about them. It's that simple, and it is a relatively big week in the sense that a major new event started this week. So coming up on this week's show, we'll be discussing Dark Crisis issue 1, Batman 124, Flashpoint Beyond issue 2, Batman Killing Time issue 4, Poison Ivy issue 1, Dark Knights of Steel issue 7, Monkey Prince issue 5, Aquaman Andromeda issue 1, and I've got a Patreon book. I'll be talking about Animal Man issue 20. So that is what's coming up on the show this week. Plus there's a little bit of news, so things are happening. Stuff's going on. Yes. So welcome to the show.
Yeah.
I guess. Is it bad that I'm in the intro and I'm already thinking about dinner?
No, because I'm thinking about all the stuff I have to do after we're done. So if we can just get through.
Yeah, but
great.
normally I get to like 90 minutes in before I start thinking about the food that I'm going to have after we're done recording. Like that, this week though, I seem to be on it, or maybe it's because I ate like a lunch very early today, so the hunger's creeping in a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if that's
that probably makes sense. I mean, yeah. So what food are you thinking about?
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to order food. I've not actually decided yet though, which is probably why I'm thinking about it, because I need to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. We'll see. I'll try and keep a bit of professionalism going though as we work through the show.
Why start now?
Look, we are very professional, except weeks where Matt's on the wrong mic.
Yeah, right. Oh,
so yes, but do not worry, everyone. Regardless of my hunger and wanting to get through the show, there's always time for a Comixology top 10.
Numbers.
Matt loves it. All right, so oh god, what do you think number? So this is the Comixology top 10 at the time of recording, which now lives on Amazon. But what do you think number one is, Matt?
Well, the fact that you just said that tells me it's not what I think it is. What
did you think it was?
I don't know. Is it one of the big two books?
Yeah, technically.
How did man?
I don't know. I don't think you'll ever get this in a million years, but it's still funny to watch you try.
I'm seeing what else came out this week. That's big two. Huh. That's too far if I scroll. I'm just gonna go by the old tried and true Batman. It
is not Batman.
No.
In fact, Batman is in a kind of shocking position on this top 10.
Oh, judging from the quality of the issue, I'm not surprised.
Oh dear. No, number one is Fortnite Cross Marvel Zero War.
Oh. I had a mutual friend. I wouldn't say mutual friend. I had a friend that we both know messaged me and asked me if I was going to get into Fortnite because they added Indiana Jones. And person, I'm going to tell you why would I do that.
Yeah, this is issue 1. I do love that the Kindle version has in big text after the title no Fortnite code. So I assume if you buy the physical version, you get a code for some bonus stuff in the game. But the digital comic does not come with that, which is weird. Like, why couldn't you just have it come with a code? But
I don't know.
Whatever. So yes, hurts my soul a little bit. I mean, I wonder if there's some promotional stuff going on there, or is Fortnite just that successful? Fortnite may just be that successful, and I'm out of touch.
Well, if that's a kid's first comic, right? Because they love Fortnite, and then it leads them to Marvel, and then that leads them to DC. Great. They have the Batman crossover too. So
I bet there's a significant percentage that will get the comic for the code and then just toss the comic aside and never read it.
Maybe. But see, when they would do stuff like that when I was a kid and you got something because of X, Y, and Z, my parents made me because they spent money on that, So, yeah. That's why I have a collecting problem to this day. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
There you go. Number 2 is a DC book, though.
Is this one Batman?
No.
Dang. Dark Knights of Steel.
No.
Dang, I went Tom Taylor next. Oh, shoot. Dark Crisis.
Yes, would you believe it? The big new event, issue 1, is ranking high. So, yeah, that's number 2. Number 3, also a DC book.
Ooh. Not Flashpoint.
No.
Not Flashpoint Beyond. I don't know. I'm tired of guessing.
I mean, you did just guess 2 other things that
yeah, I know.
weren't right for the last entry. So I mean, there'd probably be reasonable guesses for this one. Although
Dark Knights.
It's not. I'll tell you, it's neither of those guesses either. It's actually DC Pride, the special that came out.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, so
that's good. That's in the top 5.
Yeah, that's number 3. Then number 4 is over to Marvel for Amazing Spider-Man issue 3, and then number 5 is Dark Knights of Steel issue 7. So that got in there. Number 6 is Legion of X issue 2. So I'm pretty sure that was number 1 for issue 1 when that came out. Like I don't know if that was 2 weeks ago or a month ago. I don't know how quickly it's shipping, but whenever it came out, I remember that being number 1. Number 7 is Flashpoint Beyond issue 2.
Wow.
Yeah. Number 8 is Marauders issue 3, more X-Books. Number 9 is Thor issue 26. And number 10 is Batman 124, which is notably low for mainline Batman.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that. It's a bit weird. Maybe people just knew that. Actually, do you know what I think? That this, now that I'm thinking about it, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that because the last couple issues were part of a crossover that were required by another books, and because this wasn't like, oh, he's back on to start a new arc, this is just sort of an epilogue to the arc that was on before the crossover, I think that's why this didn't sell. I think next month's issue, it was because it's the start of a new run. I mean, obviously we're excited for Chip and that, but regardless of who it is, I think because next month's issue is the start of a fresh new team and a new run, it'll probably be just back to normal, if not higher. I think this one suffers because it's like lots of people probably skipped a couple of issues because it was part of a crossover, and then those same people just never bother coming back for this one because they figure I might as well start with the fresh new run. That's my thinking.
That makes sense.
I could be wrong, but that's my thinking. Elsewhere, DC's doing quite well this week, honestly, overall, though, because number 11 is Killing Time, number 12 is Aquaman Andromeda, and number 12 is Poison Ivy, and then number 14 is the Multiverse 18 Justice book. So DC, like, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the top 10, and they've got 9 in the top 14, which is pretty cushy. I'm actually quite surprised that Aquaman Andromeda's up so high, but I wonder if this is a case where Ram V's starting to build a bit of a following, the same way that Tom Taylor has, where there's an audience that will buy his books no matter what now. Yeah,
my comic shop guy asked me, well, one of the workers there, why I wasn't reading Venom, because he knows I get all the other Ram V stuff. I was like, I just don't dig Venom as a character, so if I hear good enough things, I'll pick it up, but as of right now, it's more of his independence and his DC work that I'll follow.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah, I've not tried out his non-DC stuff yet. When the mid strikes, and I want to go digging for other comics, I probably will. But
I mean, if Andromeda is any indication of what his other stuff is like, his non-superhero-y, then he definitely has a style that people dig.
I mean, we'll talk about it when we talk about the book later, but it's definitely Aquaman's inclusion is very late in the first issue, and it's mostly these new characters. So it feels like an original story almost.
It felt like when they throw the word graphic novel around, it always kind of makes me roll my eyes. But this actually felt like a novel that was given, comic book pages.
2.5 times the size of a regular comic book. That also helps.
Yeah, but no, I just mean with the way that it was paced and the introductions of characters, and it was a very different style than what I'm used to from MV. So, and that's cool. I like that he can adapt and that he seems to be getting that following. So
yeah, that's fair. No, that's cool. Yeah, I've been playing lots of video games recently. I tend to go through phases with my free time of playing video games, watching lots of movies, watching lots of TV, or reading lots of like non-podcast comics. Right? Yeah. Obviously, I'm always reading the comics that we do on the show. That's just a weekly part of my routine. But the reading other books sort of cycles in and out as the months roll on. Yes, there is actually. I mean, there's 2 big comic book video games coming because there's it was a big. Well, it still is a big weekend for video games because it's not E3. E3's kind of dead, although they're claiming it's going to come back next year. But
no, was that a product of the pandemic that killed E3?
Pretty much.
It was on the downslope.
It was on the downslope, and a couple of the big publishers had decided to pull out and just do their own shows away from it. But then the pandemic hit, and like the show got cancelled, and it was going to come back this year, but then it didn't. And they're saying it'll be back next year, but we'll see. But there was a PlayStation thing during the week, and there was the Summer's Games Fest thing on Thursday, and Xbox's things tomorrow. There's 2 big comic book games coming this year, actually. One's Gotham Knights, which is kind of a spiritual follow-up to the Batman Arkham games with Nightwing, Batgirl, Red Hood, and Robin, which I don't know if they've said if it's Tim or Damien yet. This is a lot up in the air. Because they've got kind of unique like video game outfits, so it's not, you can't just look at them and go, that's definitely so and so because of the outfit. So that's coming out. The one I'm more excited about, though, even though I'm less interested in the characters, is Marvel Midnight Suns, because it's from the XCOM creators. So it's a strategy game, and there was first game. Well, there was proper gameplay of it this week, and I thought of it because you brought up Venom, and like Venom's like one of the things you fight in it.
Well, as I said, the Midnight Suns, that's the supernatural kind of characters, right? Like Blade and Moon Knight, Ghost Rider.
Yeah, so you take out squads. I think you've got your main character who you create a character, but then you have like a squad of Marvel characters. I don't know if it varies depending on the mission or if you can just pick whoever you like or what, but that's out in October. I'm excited about it. I think they're both out in October, actually, now I'm thinking about
that's
it.
Cool.
Yeah. I wasn't going to go on too much about the video game stuff, but I thought I'd mention the two comic book related games. Although I suppose also tangentially related is that The Rock showed up at Games Fest. Not to promote a video game. He had no video games or any video game related stuff. He just showed up, he hawked his energy drink, and then hawked Black Adam, and then they showed the Black Adam trailer. Like that was like his entire thing. And it made no sense. Like everyone else that was there, everything else they showed was in some way related to a video game. He shows up and he just says, "Hey gamers, I love you. Here's my energy drink."
Fast 9 in theaters now.
Yeah,
that was last year.
Yeah, he's also not in that. He's divorced from Fast and Furious. So is the director.
Yeah. But still, shoot. Yeah, that's weird. Now, are you sure it wasn't his tequila he was pushing? Was it Terramana or was it?
Nah, it was an energy drink. He was in a gym. I think he was trying to show gamers what a gym looks like, because most don't ever visit one.
Hey, you know what though? I know plenty of people that do both.
I mean, yeah, obviously there is. Yeah. I'm just cracking. I'm joking that that's what he thinks, because like, hey, gamers, look, it's a gym. Look, you can be as muscly as me if you try.
Watch. You can use your hands for more than just a controller. But yes, no, his energy drink is actually pretty good if you can find it. That's my main problem out here.
I feel like if you work out as much as he does and drink energy drinks, you'd probably explode your heart. So he probably shouldn't be associated with energy drinks.
But here's the thing: it's not like so. Last night when I went to go see Jurassic World, I had been up since 4, couldn't nap. So by the time we get to the movie, I needed a Monster to push through. I haven't been drinking a Monster in a very long time. That kept me up to almost midnight. So the Zoas that I've had since, they're a lot lighter, right? So like on a road trip, if they have that, I'll grab one. I don't know if they have less caffeine or what is in it, but they don't have that same effect.
Okay.
So, and I like to think that he did put some thought into that, knowing that like people who work out, but people that work out are also on this trip of pre-workout now, which is basically just legalized. I don't want to say meth, but
I thought you were going to say steroids. You said meth.
No, so they take it to get a better workout, and it's basically pure caffeine. There's no sugar in it. Were you ever big into Futurama, Pete?
I've seen the first couple seasons of it. I'm not a super fan, but
the episode where Fry drinks enough Slurm that he basically starts to vibrate, or maybe it wasn't Slurm, it was another drink, but he basically becomes the Flash and he's moving at such a speed. That's what it felt like when I've taken pre-workout. I don't like it. So if The Rock's putting out something that's more mellow, that's also pushed to gamers and fitness enthusiasts, I think that's it. But yeah, you're right. It's weird that he showed up just to hawk Zoa and Black Adam.
I thought it was building to something, but it's just like I know Jeff Keighley, who does these events, loves these celebrities, but they're usually related tangentially to what's going. Or at least at the Game Awards, you'll have some musical acts who'll do a song, but at least like I guess it's traditional that things like Oscars and other award shows have performing acts occasionally, interspersed. So it makes some sense.
And it's not like we've heard like The Rock loves his video games. Like that's how he decompresses, after a movie shoot.
I don't know if he's ever talked about playing a video game. There's a lot of wrestlers who play video games. I don't know if he's one of them.
Yeah.
But
it also cracks me up because we got that Black Adam trailer, and seeing it on the big screen is a lot different than your home screen. And it's just funny to me that now he's bigger and more cut than he was ever in the ring. right?
Well, that's because
Like,
he had to get tested for certain substances when he was in the ring.
yeah, but like there were ways around it. You look at guys back in during the Rock's time, they were like they look like if you pricked them with a needle, they would just gush water. You know, they look like a water balloon. Rock was never like that, right? So
Not when he was
just
wrestling. No, he's
yeah,
gotten way bigger since.
yeah. So you know, it's funny to me, you know, and that's cool. Like, my father-in-law was like, "Why does he gotta get so big? He knows their movies, right? He knows he's not really doing this stuff. So why does he have to get so big?" And I was like, "It's a great question. Because he wants to. I don't know, but yeah, it's hilarious."
Yeah. So yeah, I've not seen Jurassic World 3 yet. I'll be seeing it on Monday or Tuesday.
Good.
In time for the Atomic Cinema Experiment next week, which is our science fiction movie podcast that I do with Tara. If people want to go check it out on Mail Fuzz Movies, you're welcome.
Had I been able to hold out till tomorrow, it would have been 29 years to the day that Jurassic Park came out. But I could not wait. I had to go opening night.
Well, you saw that like 30% on Rotten Tomatoes and thought I need to do it.
I didn't see that till this morning, and I'm not going to give too many thoughts, but I think that's very not unforgiving. It's not a 31% movie. I don't know. Maybe I saw a different movie, but I'll put it this way: I liked it more the Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home and Afterlife. And all three of those movies have higher scores.
I mean,
I don't. It's better than The Rise of Skywalker, which has a higher Rotten Tomatoes.
No, I don't think it's unlikely necessarily that I will agree with that general statement. But as far as it not deserving that low a score, I do also know other things, and very similar genres of movies, might I add, where you do rate a little higher than than most people. So
100%. I don't think like if this came in around what Jurassic Park 3 came in, I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay, people are tired of stuff, but like, I don't know. I like this one more than World and Fallen Kingdom, because watching Fallen Kingdom again this week, that first half is really rough, and the back half really makes up for it. So, and I like to think this one was pretty consistent.
I mean, I actually agree with that, but that's very taste dependent, because some people just think the back half is stupid, and I can't really argue with that. Like, it's not a good movie.
No, but I'm just saying, in comparison to that, I think has the lowest of the Rotten Tomato scores until this one.
Which is silly, because they're all better than Lost World.
I mean, watching them again, I think I like Lost World more than you do.
Well, having said that, I've not seen Dominion yet. I might think Dominion's worse than Lost World. I haven't seen that one yet. But
and I'll just say this too, that the nostalgia factor, and this is something I'm trying to divorce myself from, because I feel like, did you see No Way Home, Pete? I forget. When it comes to Marvel, I forget where you're at. I feel like a lot of the goodwill of that movie came from the nostalgia factor, because there's stuff in that movie that work and don't work contingent, and I remember people getting very upset with me when I said that it was okay and it wasn't the greatest movie ever to exist. Like my brother thought it was the best MCU movie ever, and I was like, did we watch the same thing? Like, it's good, don't get me wrong, but here I feel like the characters, them bringing back.
That sounds like me talking to anyone about Captain America: Civil War, which is, people seem to think that movie's good, and I don't get it.
I have fun with that movie. I don't. It's not my favorite Marvel movies, but I have fun
so
with it. There's so much going on in it, and I feel No Way Home and Civil War are very similar. When you think about it. Anyways, when it comes to Dominion, I feel like them bringing the characters full circle. If this is the last one, right? Because you can never say that for sure with Hollywood.
It definitely is not. I mean, I'm sure the next one will be after a little bit of time, and it'll feel like a fresh start again. But it's not the last Jurassic Park movie. There's no way.
I'm just saying, of the saga, let's say, I feel like bringing in the characters from the original makes sense, and it brings them full circle. So I don't feel like it's just a nostalgia bait.
I mean, it is, but
right, but cynically, right? It's not like in stuff in Afterlife where the mini puffs are there for no reason. You know, like there are things in Dominion that make sense for the story. And so I saw that 31%, and it made me very, as I said, irrationally upset. So, because I don't tend to give too much to scores, but yeah, I don't know. Me and my wife both thoroughly enjoyed it. So, And my sister-in-law who went with us. So I don't know.
Oh well, I'll be seeing it at the start of the week.
I'll get off my soapbox now, and you guys can take it away from me. Hide it. Let's just say this reawakened my love of dinosaurs. So I may or may not be planning to go to the Dinosaur National Monument in the fall up in Utah, because of rewatching these movies. So yeah.
And for anyone who thinks that I've been too down on things, like I thought the first Marvel episode was pretty solid for what it was.
Hey, you're the first person I've seen that said something worth listening, because I tend to drown out a lot of the Marvel people because they know
it's got a lot of characters, very pulpy. It's got a lot of color, but honestly, it's all just down. The main actress is really good, and she's perfectly cast. So
well, now I'll add that to the list of things to watch after I get through Stranger Things, because the problem with doing a Jurassic Park rewatch as Stranger Things is going, we only have enough time to do one or the other.
How many of those you watched?
2. And I am 2. Like, I feel like a junkie because I've been like, I need to watch more, and I can watch them by myself, but that would be very rude to my wife because I get home before her. I'm working summer hours.
You can always remarry, Matt. It's fine. You can always remarry.
Yeah, true. I was like, I could watch these, when I get home, when I'm hanging out with the dogs. And I'm jonesing. I need to know the significance of that Kate Bush song. Because it's all over my social media.
Because you haven't got to that episode yet, but everyone's talking about it.
And I need to know why. So that's when we're done here, we have some errands to run, and then we're gonna hunker down with some Stranger Things and Steve and Robin. They're the best. So I need more of them, and I've only gotten a little bit through 2 episodes.
Oh, you'll get plenty more. Yeah. I think I want to rewatch those 7 episodes before the last 2 come out.
Yeah.
I'll probably just spend a week doing it sort of gradually before they hit.
Yeah. You know what I don't like, and it's the fact that now when I see Millie Bobby Brown pop up and she's a young woman, because in my head she's still just 11, the character
and the age.
Yeah, no, not just the age. It's just like she's this little kid.
No, I was joking. 11 the character and the age.
Gotcha. So seeing her pop up and stuff, and she's just a grown woman now.
Actually,
I don't like it. It makes me feel old.
Oh sure. I mean, also her accent's disturbing because she's English, but but the one that actually got me is I stumbled onto a YouTube video. It was of not all the cast, but a good handful of the cast of the season. And the girl, I say girl, the woman who plays Erica looks like it's that same thing where she looks like she's about 18 now, and it's just weird because she's supposed to be this little kid, right? And it's obviously it's not their fault, but in season 4 there's a line in episode 1 where she's like, I'm 11, and I'm like, no you're not.
No you're not. Yeah, I did the same thing.
like maybe 14 at a push.
Does that come up again, or is that just at the intro when they're playing D&D?
Does what come up again?
Her age.
Her age? I don't think her age comes. I mean, no, I don't think her age comes up again.
Okay. Then I've seen that scene, and yes, because I did the same thing. I was like, in what world?
Well, that's the thing. The actor who plays Eddie, for example, he's like 28, and my theory is they cast people in these new upper teenage roles to be almost 30 to make the other ones look younger, because they're all like 17, 18 when they were filming this.
I mean, but that's been a go-to thing in movies and TV for a while, right? Is the almost 30-year-old playing a teenager.
I mean, it's not usually that bad. I mean, usually they go for early 20s at least.
Yeah, but I mean, most of the time, if they have the energy, I think it's okay. Like, I don't get too caught up on that, unless you have like Ryan Gosling playing a 20-something.
I mean, although to be fair, at least Eddie, they mentioned that he's repeated senior year like 4 times, so at least there's a bit of a...
That man is 22 in high school. We all had one at our school. I don't know if it was the same at your school, but there was that one dude.
Oh, no. It doesn't happen in the UK. You can't repeat a year. It doesn't work like that.
Why do you guys have free medicine? School makes sense. Oh my god. But anyways, yes. No, I need to get back to Stranger Things, and there's a whole list of stuff that I need to get to. Saw, The Boys, Yeah, it's too much.
Oh yeah, but oh yeah. Actually, you know what? I will say this. This past month for TV, after a long time of not feeling excited about any TV, The Boys season 3, which just got renewed for season 4, Stranger Things season 4, and the final season of Better Call Saul have all been excellent. Right? It's good times.
So this is the final season of Saul. Like it's actually gonna.
Yeah, this is it done. It's on its mid-season break right now. It's coming back early July for its last 6 episodes, and that's it.
Okay. Then I will wait till those are all done before I start because I have them DVR'd, so I can just once those are done airing, I'll start that in September, so that wipes it off. But yeah, no, there's a whole list of things. Still need to get through Twin Peaks. I finished the first season.
Oh yeah.
Still need to get going on that. I watched that when I was sick, so. The problem with Twin Peaks is that there's like weeks in between sometimes because I watch it when I can. But I'm enjoying that, you know. But I have to be in the right headspace. I just can't come home from work.
You must have fallen in love with the intro music by now.
Oh, like 3 episodes in. I don't know why it works, but it does. But I also watching Stranger Things. I like dark synthy stuff, and I was like,
oh yeah.
Maybe it was just my dad watching John Carpenter stuff growing up. It's just, you know,
the music's great.
Reawakening things. But yeah, that Twin Peaks music is up there with that dark, twangy synth. So.
Yeah, one of the exciting things about the new season is that the composer did do a couple of new tracks. Because you'll notice Twin Peaks does a thing where it'll reuse a lot of the same tracks over and over again. It likes to just use like the themes that's been made. There's a lot of source music in season 3, but there's a couple of new tracks, and plus obviously some of the old ones come back as you'd expect. But
yeah, no, that entire intro too, because it does not match the show. You know, it makes it seem like it's like a soap opera, right? So, but yeah, no, and enjoying those. I just need to be in the right headspace, and again, seeing all the stuff that they keep adding, all the different streaming stuff, like Fringe. I want to watch Fringe. And
Fringe is great.
Everything's so far away. I'm so glad I'm not a Trek person because I hear good things about the new Trek show. So
yeah, but I mean, there was 2 really bad Trek shows as well right before. So I mean,
that's why I'm talking about the one that's good that people seem to be universally enjoying.
I mean, Discovery has ups and downs, I suppose, to be fair, but Picard. Oh Jesus, Picard.
Yeah.
Picard was rough, I tell you. And there was like little moments of hope at the start of the season. I was like, oh, maybe this one will just be kind of a fun romp and that'll be okay. And then the last like 4 or 5 episodes, it was just like, oh god, this went down the toilet.
Yeah. But I'll get caught up. Hockey season's almost done. The Angels are tough to watch. So that leaves, without sports in the summer, I'll get stuff watched. So, and wrestling's only on twice a week right now. So it'll be okay.
Yeah, and for those of you who do enjoy the Almost Cancelled podcast with me and Connor doing the TV news of the week, it's not on this week because he's, as he's the same reason he's not here, he's off gallivanting poolside. Maybe there's an update on that. I don't know. Has he found time to answer your tweet?
Yep. So he does swim. Don't worry.
Oh, good.
They make SPF that strong.
I'm just imagining his ginger hair bobbing up and down as he's swimming.
The ginger hair, his paleness is enough to bring down an airplane.
Yes. So yes, the Almost Cancelled TV News podcast will be back next week. You can get that on MailFuzz TV. I'm doing a lot of plugging today for the YouTube channel.
That's good though. That's good.
Yes. Well, do you know, someone? I was a little while ago, but someone said something, and I mentioned there being a review of some movie on one of the podcasts. And they go, "Oh, I didn't know you did like a horror movie podcast." I'm like, "Oh, here's a playlist with 500 episodes. Enjoy."
Yeah, I don't understand that one. If you're on Twitter, because the engagement between the streams and you and Tim.
Yeah, but I mean, if you only follow at DC Comics Podcast, you wouldn't see any of that.
No, that's true. But I feel like if you're following the DC Comics one, you'd be following you. I don't know. But yeah, no, that I would the Screams one because Tim is such an unhinged maniac.
I mean, I get it. Like, you want updates on the podcast, but you don't necessarily want all my personal bullshit of me doing whatever. I don't know. Like, I get it.
I understand I'm very hateable. It's okay.
All right, we have a little bit of news to look at. Couple things. Really weird headline to start off here. Bruce Campbell is writing a DC comic, which is like the weirdest thing I've heard in a while.
Sign me up.
So Bruce Campbell is writing a Sergeant Rock series, and it is actually related to Evil Dead, which is what Bruce Campbell is mainly known for. Obviously, he plays Ash in the original Evil Dead trilogy. So it's Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Sergeant Rock is dispatched with his easy company to battle Nazi zombies in Berlin in 1944. This does sound very Matt, actually.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm here for that. You know what? Sergeant Rock movie with Bruce Campbell as Sergeant Rock. Why not?
Yeah, Eduardo Rizzo is the artist. There's some covers here you can look at. I assume it's the variant in the darkness with the zombies coming from behind is really nice.
Yeah, that is one I do need. I've never seen Army of Darkness, so I need to.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I've seen the other Evil Dead, and that's what's made me not watch Ash v Evil Dead.
Have you seen Oz the Great and the Powerful?
Yes.
Well, you've seen the exact plot of Army of Darkness.
Yeah, but like that wasn't good, and I hear Army of Darkness is.
Oh, it's better. It's definitely better. I'm just pointing out that Sam Raimi.
Gotcha.
I mean, I didn't think it was possible to plagiarize yourself, but Sam Raimi's managed it.
I will say that Bruce Campbell showing up in Oz is the best part of that movie.
Sure.
So, but yeah, no, I need to see it. But I have seen the other Evil Deads. That's just one has always escaped me. So I just checked. It's not streaming on any of my devices, so that's fun.
It's a different company has the rights to that one. It always seems to be separate whenever there's a box set or something like that.
Yeah, Dream Warriors was like that. So like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies would all be there except for part 3.
Yeah, I don't understand that because as far as physical releases go, it's always been included. It's like it's still just Warner Brothers and New Line. I don't know why the streaming services are different.
Like, I would go to watch it and it wouldn't be there. And then so finally, that's why I watched them this October because they all seem to be in the same spot. Which I forget which streaming service I watched them all, but I watched them all. So
interesting.
But yeah, and that seems to be the same with Army of Darkness. But like you said, if it's a rights thing, then it makes sense. But I mean, it's just like every Friday the 13th, they pull them all from streaming to make you buy them. You know.
Yeah, because there was a new Evil Dead box set with the show and the first 2 movies. Just either is coming out or just came out, but Army of Darkness isn't in it because it's a different rights holder, which is awkward and annoying. But
very much.
I mean, but I'm sure it's not hard to find if you want to just go rent it. So.
Yeah, I could rent it, but if I have all these streaming services I pay for, I always look there first. There's one right there, and it'll pop up on something. I've been trying to catch $1 Million Arm for it feels like 15 years now. And every time they add it to Disney Plus, it's there for like 2 days and then it's gone again. So, and I don't know why it's not there. They own it, but yeah.
Any further thoughts on this series?
So I'll be reading this day one. I love the DC horror stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's DC Horror presents Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. So, very interesting. Very interesting.
Feels like they want to say Army of Darkness, but they couldn't. Right?
Yeah. Obviously, I said it's related to Evil Dead, and that they're clearly evoking Army of Darkness with that title, and obviously, but it's not Deadites, right? It's not actually Deadites from the franchise, so it should make that clear. It's not a crossover.
So, why are they called Deadites in that? Is that just something that Raimi did to make it different, or?
Yeah, because they're not really zombies; they're possessed people.
Gotcha. So they're zombie adjacent, but also demon adjacent. So yeah, that makes sense.
But they're more like absurd versions of like when was it Reagan's possessed in The Exorcist? It's more akin to that than a zombie.
That makes sense.
So yes, but there you go. That is Sergeant Rock versus Nazi zombies. Or sorry, Sergeant. That's what the headline says. Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead. Although that would also be a fine title. But there you go. And then the other bit of news that I saw this week is there's going to be a series of Black Adam, the Justice Society Files specials coming out, obviously to tie into the movie. The first one is a Hawkman issue, and they're all 48-page one-shots. They're also going to be doing one for Dr. Fate, Atom Smasher, and Cyclone. So, yeah. So this is over the course. So they end in October. The first one's out in July. So we had to solicit for the first one already. So it's between July, August, September, October. So it's one per month over the next.
Are they all the same writer? Are they all Kevin Scott? I think. So I'm seeing different artists, but I don't see. Yeah, each one shot's written by Kevin Scott, but different artists. So that might be something. It depends. That trailer, I wanted it to be better, but maybe it'll surprise me. Very, very much like 007 is Fate. So now I have a voice in my head. When I read that, it'll be nice. Pierce Brosnan, that's his name. I couldn't remember his name.
Took you a while.
Yeah, it took me a second.
I wasn't that hopeful for the movie. Like, other than the fact that they were putting characters in it that people liked, there was nothing to indicate that it was going to be any good. So I was pretty cynical about it, to be honest.
I'm confused about the origin because the trailer makes it seem like 3 different things, and I'm not sure if that's purposefully misdirect or what. So yeah,
I have no idea, but hey ho, not really much to say there. We knew about the first 1 or 2 of those, but that's the full slate of them. When's the movie? Is the movie out in October? Is this building up to when it comes? So yeah,
October 27th. I saw.
So in theory, you could go into a shop and buy all 4 of these. Although I don't see them ordering a lot of some of those, but we'll see.
The Rock does sell, so we'll see if that can get people in comic shops.
Yeah, maybe they'll all have variants. It's just a photo of the Rock's face.
It's him flexed out of his mind, veins popping out that you didn't know humans had.
Holding up his energy drink.
Yeah, and his Terramana.
Yeah, it's not the power of Shazam the Wizard or anything that gives him power. It's the energy drink. He's not going to. In the movie, he was not going to say Shazam. He's just going to like crack a can open and take a swig, like Popeye with the spinach, and just turn it to Black Adam.
I mean, I know that's how I get through work, but it's coffee, not Zoa, but yes.
Yeah, I keep forgetting the name.
Zoa, ZOA.
Yeah, it does. So I don't think you can get it here. Like I'm fairly certain.
Again, it's very hard to find here. My local grocery store had a entire display of them one day, and then I went back to buy more, and it was gone. Like, it never existed. Like, it was the Zoltar machine.
What is it about energy drinks that, I feel like that is the go-to thing that a lot of celebrities try and do their own version of, because there's so many custom ones that just start and die immediately.
Yeah, so it's a lot like celebrity coffees, where you feel like a brand comes up and goes, "Hey, we want to put your face on this," and they'll go, "Okay," and then it's never really that good. So, because they do it with a lot of alcohol too, whereas I feel like, at least with The Rock, I feel like he is really in the not the production per se, but at least as far as the marketing, he's very involved. So with all of those, so maybe that's why. But again, I don't know. Maybe they're a smaller company and it's harder for them to keep, supply up. But yeah, man, it's tough.
It's one of those things where there's like 3 or 4 biggies in the energy drink game, and it's just going to be important unless you have something that really makes you stick out as different and good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you penetrate that market, because if you're not Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar, or
what's the 4th one?
I feel it was a 4th one. I'm forgetting.
Do you guys have Bang and Rain over there, which are rival companies that are about the same thing?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's not one of those.
I feel it's another one.
Well, it was Monster, Red Bull, and Rockstar were the big 3, I remember.
Yeah, maybe it's just the big 3. Maybe that's all I'm thinking. So if you're not like, and obviously they have tons of flavors of some of those, but that's what they do. They do a limited edition Monster for a celebrity rather than.
Yep. What's your go-to Monster, Pete?
Oh, the white can, which is I think it's grapefruit flavor.
That's the one I had last night. Before Jurassic Park. So I hadn't had that one in a while. I remember this one being good.
Yeah.
So,
and it's sugar-free as well, so you feel a little bit better about yourself when you're drinking that.
Yeah. Oh, man. Some of those. I had a soda for the first time in a while. Hooey. That was full full sugar. I was not ready.
Yeah. Anywho, let's get on to the comics, shall we, for the week. So, Dark Crisis issue 1, Joshua Williamson writing with Daniel Sampere on the art. We've had some minor crossovers. Obviously, Williamson did a couple of minis and one shots that have kind of related on the build up to this. Justice League Incarnate, Infinite Frontier, but this kind of feels like the first proper event issue 1 we've had in some time.
Yeah. So,
probably the last one was probably Metal. Probably like Death Metal was the last proper event.
Proper crossover, yeah, because that did feel like an event. This does feel like an event. Like, even so, I had a friend reach out and say, does he, because he's interested in this, because, it seems like Nightwing takes the center role, and they're a big Nightwing fan, and want to know if he needed to read The Death of the Justice League or Justice League Incarnate. And after fully reading this through, I feel like you can just jump in here, and they do a very good job at summarizing the events of those.
Yeah, I think because it's just one issue, I would probably recommend people read Justice League 75. Hey, it's one issue that sets everything up.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but if you don't, I do feel like Williamson does do a good job here at throwing you in and setting the stakes enough that the Justice League are gone, and there's some strange things afoot across the universe.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's 100% necessary, but I think it's because it's just one issue. I think it's like an easy enough ask to just go read that one thing. Before you.
I did steer him away of the Road 2.
Oh yeah,
like,
skip
you don't need that. You don't need that.
Yeah, you don't need Road 2. It's very unnecessary. Joe, it was a bit of a swerve here because I thought there was Batman narration at the start of this issue, and it swerved as it being Dick Grayson, which I thought was really neat because you turn the page and it's a blue box, and I'm like, oh, it's Nightwing that's talking. It's him being sworn in, not Bruce talking about his oath. So it feels like a big start of a Crisis event because you get the big splash 2-page of all the various versions of Justice Leagues and Titans teams and everything else. But we have this big vigil. Nightwing's making a speech about the death of Justice League and moving forward, all the rest of it. But the main story of this book boils down to John's working with Wally, he's working with others, but ultimately he wants to form a new league. Hal shows up and he's pissed that was set up before. He's like, we're just believing Black Adam's word for this, and everyone's like, well, we looked into it as best we could, but all the villains are starting to rile up and we kind of need to deal with that. So as best we can tell, the story is true.
I do love that too, that Hal being gone for so long and how much stuff has changed, he gets to be that outsider that maybe is just coming back for oh, there's a DC Crisis, I'll pick it up. He's like, wait, Black Adam's a good guy now? What the hell? So I did love that perspective.
Yeah, that was neat. Yeah, so Wally and Hal go off, but Wally's going to go look for Barry. Hal's going to go look and find out, what happened to the Justice League. He's going to investigate like a crime,
right.
Which is neat, right? And John's like, well, what about everything in the world? And one of them says, well, that's what Superman's for. So it's like, hey, you can take care of the planet with everyone else. Like you guys are good.
Yep.
So he looks at the statues and he flies off, and we get this recruiting montage of him going around, and he tries to recruit Yara. Yara turns him down. Obviously, I suspect she's going to be dragged into it later on.
I do like what she says too. She's like, I just had a fight to be Wonder Girl, and you want me to go drag into something new, So I did like her voice, and also from what we read with the future state stuff of these two and their relationship that builds there. I did like that.
It's notable this is the first time they meet. Like, obviously, we've read them meet before in the future, but this is the first time in, chronological order they've met.
Right. So, but I did like that. That was a nice swerve, because here I am going into this thinking like, oh, John's going to put together what we thought was the what was that, G1, G5,
5G.
Yeah. There we go. The 5G era, and it doesn't necessarily seem like that's what he's doing here. Like when Yara turns him down.
Yeah, I mean, she turns him down. Jace turns him down. He's like, I'm not your Batman. Ask one of the Robins. I mean, Yara even says that almost exact same thing, which is like, I'm not your Wonder Woman. You're like, go away. So and we get like a montage, and I thought it was interesting. You actually get like some people who turn them down, but some people who say yes. So you get like Swamp Thing saying no, but you get like Killer Frost, or just Frost now maybe, saying I don't mind a second chance. So you get like all these varying different reactions to him to being asked. So then he reveals his team to Black Adam. And what's interesting is I thought Damian turned him down. Because he says, I support you, but John, my father is not dead. But then he's there in the team.
I thought that too, and then when you go back and read it, it's Damian going like, yeah, no, I'll help you, but they're not dead. There's something else going on here.
Which, I mean, I think he's probably right, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's comic books, I suspect that. I love Black Adam saying, do we need 2 Blue Beetles? Because I didn't even notice that at first, and then I was like, oh yeah, both of them are there.
Yeah. I also love that each on that recruiting thing is how some of the people say no and why they say no. So you get like Peacemaker saying country before multiverse, which tracks with the Peacemaker I'm familiar with. But then like Vixen, not exactly say no, it was like, hey, people need my help here more. And then the Flash is going off with Wally. Naomi even gets in here. Harley was the one I was surprised too, because she said really, and you can read that as like, really, you're asking me to join a Justice League?
I think that's what it's meant to be.
Yeah, but the first read through, she was kind of like, really, I don't do teams. Like the whole Suicide Squad.
She's had like 5 teams right now.
Yeah, I know, and that's why it works with the Harley whole thing. But yeah, seeing her there, that is a fun page. So you got Supergirl in a new costume, which I really like, in the Jaime Reyes.
And there's kind of a loose reference to Women of Tomorrow, because she says she just got back.
Yeah.
So
as she's with Crypto.
Yeah.
Too, right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like just saying, yeah, that's kind of subtly in canon.
Yeah. Right. And then you have Dr. Light, the hero version. You have, not Killer Frost. You have Booster and Blue Beetle, Frankenstein, what's his name? Aquaman. I was Jackson.
Jackson Hyde, yeah.
And Harley. And what I like here is this really feels like a legacy build, right? Like you can look at a lot of these characters and see, how they're representing here and why they would say yes.
I mean, it's definitely an oddball team though, which is why I love Black Adam's and I actually just noticed he's in the people's eyebrow. His reaction is the one eyebrow up. But he's like the way 2 Blue Beetles, whatever. My favorite thing about this though is the way this scene ends, where he's like, "Look, this is all very well intentioned, but the world needs protectors, not children. I'm going back to Kandak. They need me, but we both know that there's one person. You're not ready for the role of leading the Justice League, but we both know who is." And then you turn the page, and it's Dick Grayson. Yes, Black Adam gets it.
Getting those Dick's getting the shine.
Yeah,
and again, we always, as Dick Grayson fans and as fans of the DC universe too, it's nice to know he kind of is the keystone. Like he's kind of who pulls everybody together because of all his different relationships. So if there is going to be the symbol of hope, of legacy, of all of this stuff, it's all in one package, and that package is Dick Grayson.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's more specific than that. It's the idea that he is the one qualified. He's the one he's the eldest Robin. He's the one who's been trained by Batman. Batman was kind of naturally, at least most of the time, he was the leader of the team because he was the thinker. He was the one that strategized and stuff like that. And it plays back in, way back when we started this show, there was that little flashback story where Batman said one day Dick would lead the Justice League, and I think technically he's about to. It's a technicality because it's not quite the main team that.
No, but that's why I love stuff like this, because I love the oddball Justice Leagues.
Yeah. So it's this idea that like they're going to go to Dick and ask them maybe to be leader, or maybe he'll just fall into the role because shenanigans. Because obviously there's a big cliffhanger that comes up in a little bit, but he's at Titans Academy. We've got other New Teen Titans characters there, making fun of him because he likes doing the circus class, if you want to call it that.
I do love that, and it's so cheesy, but it's also very Dick Grayson. That of course he's gonna teach them to fly without nets.
Yeah, but the big cliffhanger ending, by and large, though, is that a bunch of, I'll say B-list villains in the sense that the biggest villains are, of course, all on the, they're with Pariah. They're with the, they're all the hands of darkness, right?
Right.
Well, the hands, the feet, all the parts of darkness.
All of them.
Yeah. But we got Deathstroke, who obviously we're questioning what his mental state's like, given that he just came back from that, weird Lazarus pit that got infected. But he's leading the team, and there was sort of a tease for this earlier back in the candlelight vigil. Dick said something to the effect of, we have to keep the candles burning to keep their memories living on. And immediately the next panel is Deathstroke blowing out the candle that he's holding, which I thought it was interesting he was even there in the first place. But that kind of sets up he's got a plan. So the idea that Deathstroke has assembled a team of B-list villains to come after the Titans, and seemingly kills Beast Boy.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that, but it is a crisis.
Raise the stakes, baby.
Yeah.
It's not like they've done anything with Beast Boy in ages anyway. Yeah.
No, but I love Gar. I love, and who knows? The world could reset and Beast Boy will be back, right?
Sure. That's always a possibility with these things.
When I say I don't like that, story-wise, like you just said, raise the stakes. As someone that likes Beast Boy, it hurts, and I feel like that's what Williamson's going for, right? Like he's the lovable, affable guy that he, got caught and is almost the sacrifice to the story. But Deathstroke ain't playing. And he, is this the society? Is this something that the society is now, evolved from, now that he's been infected by whatever the Lazarus thing was?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, this is just such a minor thing, right? It's not really a big deal. This is a very Connor-esque critique.
Uh-oh.
But so in the art here, they do a thing where you see like Beast Boy through like a panel that's like a scope, right, to show that he's got a gun pointing at him, and then you see like the side shot, and then you get the bang. Now I know the scope's just representative of the gun aiming at him, but he's pointing a handgun at him,
right?
So immediately I sort of I snickered and went, "Where's the scope on this big handgun?"
That was a very Connor quibble. But it just matches thematically because we've seen different heroes targeted throughout.
It's just representative. But normally when this happens, it's because someone's actually using a sniper rifle.
Right.
Whereas here it's just like it's basically just a fancy panel rather than representing the specific actuality of what's happening.
Yes.
So
I will say The Office has ruined the word sniper rifle for me because I can't not hear Andy yelling at Jim when he went to the other branch in Connecticut and they're playing Call of Duty. It's Tuna sniper rifle.
It's been a while. The last 3 seasons were so terrible. I've not really watched it since I first watched it.
Yeah, they are on in perpetuity here all the time, so you can catch the early seasons.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's the big sort of main plot cliffhanger, is that there's this war being waged on Titan's Tower. So presumably the other heroes are going to have to come in and help the Titans, but stakes have been raised. That's a really fun development. And then the other thing we see at the end is outside the multiverse, or we're in Multiverse 2, Pariah's monologuing and talking about dying worlds, usual stuff. But he says we need more heroes from Earth Zero. And it looks like he's got all of the Justice League, sort of like not dead. They're more like trapped. Like he's absorbing all the powers of all of them, and they're all like in like almost like little Phantom Zone bubbles.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like the Phantom Zone, and they're all like almost like their own personal hell. Yeah, kind of deal.
So I mean, I don't know if you can say this final page is just confirmation they're not technically dead. Like he just absorbed them rather than killed them, but. It's cool, but you get some of that classic Crisis imagery of all the worlds lined up, just to make you feel crisisy.
Yeah, and you have Sampere doing the Kirby crackle dots, which is real cool.
Yeah.
It looks real cool.
Yeah, I mean, on the art actually, Sampere I think is a pretty he's like a really upper tier house style artist, is how I describe Sampere, right? Which is not an insult. Like I think he's really good.
And he gets to draw like just about all my favorite characters here, which is real cool. That's why I love these big events, is seeing the artists take on, and even some of the C and D list villains that show up there. It's like a who's who, And then when you look at the Vigil, but all the details are there. Like it's not, it doesn't look rushed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when you're looking through the Vigil, you can pick out certain heroes.
Yeah, and it's from the back as well, so obviously there's a reasonable attention to detail if you can pick them out from the back.
Yeah, so I like all that. So no, I like Sampere a lot on here.
He's kind of he's kind of perfect for a mainline event because he is he's like kind of house style, but he's really good house style in terms of quality. So
yeah, and the big moments like you said, so like the the Vigil, the when Hal swoops in.
The assault on Titan's Tower.
The assault on Titan's Tower looks great. The John standing in front of the statues.
If I have a minor critique, it's maybe the Hal page. Hal looks a little too angry.
That's Hal's thing.
Maybe you could say that works in context, but it feels like he's been a bit too aggressive with who he's talking to. But I mean, it's just a minor. That's such a minor quibble.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Hal is that because he's talking to Wally and John, and he's like your dad's friend that doesn't really respect kids, so he's kind of a dick to him. But if he was talking to like your dad and the other friends, he's a completely different person. I don't know. Maybe that's just my experience with my dad's friends.
I think what sticks out to me about this is I was curious how Williamson was going to handle it, because while he's done relatively these minis before with lots of these big ideas that have also obviously been building up to this, they still felt like, oh, these aren't like the main thing we should be reading right now. They're kind of like, they feel like ancillary material. And I was curious to see if like his big event that's actually billed as the big event would actually feel like that. And I'd say after one issue it does. I'm curious to see if it maintains that throughout, and if like he's really elevated to the big leagues here, where he can carry an entire main crisis and it feel like a big deal by the end. I think so far it does, and I think one of the things that I love most about it, and it's something that was missing from his other stories building up to this, it is the focus on John and Dick, who of course have two of the better books right now. I mean, Dick especially.
Right, they're like that's what I'm looking for. Like they're holding up the company, tent poles, kind of not financially necessarily, but like it seems like the main story of the DCU is being told through.
Yeah,
Taylor,
I mean,
right?
I think right now is just a great time to be a Dick Grayson fan, especially, and I think John as well, because there is going to be a time when they are more diminished, right? When the DC decide to put them in the back seat and focus on other characters, and that'll be fine to a point when it happens, as long as they're not forgotten about. But I think if you're enjoying this particular era right now with these characters and what they're doing, and for Dick, it's this like appreciation of his history and really sort of like putting him on the pedestal he deserves to be on because of who he is and all the stories he's had over the decades. And then in a much different way, you've got John, who is still a new character, right? You know, we've only had him for since the start of the show, basically, right? And okay, technically, Baby was in Convergence or whatever, but
we don't. Yeah, that's not really, but it is.
It's not a character yet.
He is. Yeah, well, both of them, like, and you can add Wally in there too, right? These are three characters that have come to prominence because of Rebirth, and we didn't have Wally for a while. Even the whole point of that
Wally's all
special.
like Dick, and that he should we were upset for a long time because he was not as important as he should feel be, or just outright gone for a long time even.
Right, but now the fact that he has his own, like the Flash book is going to get a tie-in where he's looking for Barry. I feel like that's another thing.
But what I'm saying is that he's more like Dick, and that he is this like classic legacy character. He's kind of like what we think of when we think of legacy characters, but it's important that they're also establishing new legacy characters and building them up to be something major. And it feels like they're really putting their all into John Kent. Now, whether or not anyone agrees or disagrees if they're succeeding or not that's very subjective. It's open for discussion. But they're giving it their all. Like he is the Superman in a Superman book. He is interacting with other characters. He has been given one of these center roles in a crisis event. And one of the things I liked about the premise of this event from as soon as they announced it was that the main Justice League are gone, and this is a story where these characters are going to be the ones who have to stand up and like fight most of the battle. So I'm quite happy with this after one issue. It felt like a big event. I'm excited for issue 2. Connor would probably shit all over it for some reason or another. I don't know what.
Connor doesn't like things. Just to let you also know, speaking of Connor,
Oh God.
he burned his scalp on day 1 of vacation. So there you go. Hey, don't make SPF that strong.
But like,
yes. So, but I agree. He is the Connor is the Great Darkness.
I just. But surely the hair helps like defend his scalp. No,
I don't know. I wear a hat all the time. I've never had to deal with a head sunburn.
like the front of my head, right? This is like prime sun,
Right.
danger territory right here.
I love how he's a living stereotype. Anyway, no, but Dark Crisis, yeah, I'm sure he'd find quibbles to complain about. But being that this is focusing on legacy, and that is DC to me, right? Like, when we bring up Wally, he was the first of the sidekicks to assume the mantle, right? Barry dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and he's the one that takes over.
And alternatively, Dick is just the first psychic.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, someone might correct me on that, but I feel like Robin is probably the first psychic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure someone will find something from an old pulp book.
Okay, I'll rephrase that. The first one that stood the test of time.
Yes, that's what I say. He is though, and that's what makes him, and John being Superman's son, and the fact that Superman doesn't really have a legacy character. Like, yeah, you have Kara, right? But she's been so on and off. And I'm only going to take this back to Crisis, right? She's been so on and off in the year since. And,
well, that's DC editorial, though. Like, Kara should be considered a legacy character. And she, much like Dick and Wally, she should be more prominent in her positioning. Like, she very much should be, like, the number 2, like, female character after Wonder Woman.
I agree.
That's the status she should have, and don't get me wrong, she's actually relatively high up because she every so often she gets a great mini or a great little like run in one of her books. So it's not like she's not without nothing. Like, she does get good stuff, but
I mean, one of my all-time favorite runs was during when they did the whole Superwoman thing in her book, where it ended up being Lucy Lane given Kryptonian powers and like all pre-Flashpoint stuff, and it was like that was the book I would read first, every time it came out. So they've been close with her, but I feel like they're doubling down on John, being like, this is Superman's legacy, and that's the story's being told through him and Dick, which I really like. I mean, they are Superman and Batman for the most part, in ways that their parents aren't. They're Superman and Batman in different ways. Yeah, whereas John's way more aggressive.
Which I did actually laugh when John goes to Jason, New York, and messes up his car chase. He's like, "How world's finest of us." Yeah. That popped me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
It's very funny, but yeah. So, and whereas Dick isn't as aggressive and brooding as Bruce, they still have that balance, and I feel like Williamson is a legacy guy, right? Like, he was handpicked by John to take over Flash.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning though that Dick's not his Batman though. Damien's his Batman.
No, I know this, but like,
no, I know in the context of this book, we're pairing them up because they're going to be the two people on the team, right? But it's just worth mentioning that in long-term prospects, like John's Batman, if you will, is going to be Damien.
Yes, and that in a weird way, Dick is almost his Superman. Whereas Dick is that person he can look up to.
That's not a bad way on that, actually.
You know what I mean? So, and this is why I love these characters.
I mean, obviously, Superman's also a Superman, but like, I know what you mean, though.
Right. Going and talking to your dad isn't the same as going and talking to the guy that you're like your cool older brother type, right? Like, because Dick's like that for Damien too, right? Like,
Well, more importantly, Superman was this for Dick.
Right, and that's what I was getting to. So, but yeah, no.
Good luck to anyone who followed that conversation that just bounced around name to name and to name to name.
Yeah, I mean, but this is why I love DC. This is why I'm doing the show right now. It's these characters and what they mean in the grand scheme of things. And even someone like Hal Jordan, who isn't part of this generation, he is the upper generation. and him being involved in how that's gonna, how is that gonna get with Dick and John and this whole team? We'll see. But I really enjoyed this book.
Yep, I like the first issue quite a bit. Looking forward to issue 2. We'll see how the tie-in one shots and the minis with the Titan. I guess that there being a Young Justice / Titan. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but the Young Heroes miniseries that's coming that ties in. I guess it makes a little bit more sense given the ending of this and like Titan's Tower being attacked, that there's going to be something focusing on some younger characters. Yeah. I suspect it'll probably spin out of what's happening at Titan's Tower, whatever that book is. Yeah. I could be wrong, but that'd be my guess right now.
Deathstroke does point out that them having a tower always makes it a prime. He knows where to hit them. This goes back to the Wolfman and Perez stuff. So,
but teens aren't subtle.
No, never.
That's very much the point. All right, what are you giving Dark Crisis issue 1?
I'm giving it an 8.
It's actually kind of reserved, to be honest, coming from you.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking 8.5.
Oh. See, I had 8.5 and I dropped it by 0.5 just so it didn't seem like I was, over the top on it.
Trust me, I mean, you probably gave Jurassic World 3 like a 10, so I mean...
9.5, bud.
9.5!
No, it's not that much, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm just going to give it a score that's usually, reserved for things like, Jaws and, like, The Godfather.
I actually don't like The Godfather. I think it's very overrated.
I'm sure you don't, but, I'm talking people in general, right?
Yeah.
Movie fandom in general.
My just off the top of my head, my 3 10-star movies, they're, whatever we were saying, 10 out of 10, are Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park, and Jaws. That's all you need to know about me. And right under those...
you have a very narrow selection there. I'm not going to lie.
And then Back to the Future is 4. So...
well, at least Spielberg didn't direct that one.
No.
It says it does say Steven Spielberg presents on the poster, so there's a little bit of shadiness going on there, but
just a little, not a lot though.
Yeah, I don't know what my Mount Rushmore is. It's like Aliens, Halloween, Paris, Texas, and Diabolique. That's my Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, those aren't bad.
I'm a classy man.
Yeah, I've seen 3 of the 4, so I need to see Paris, Texas.
Great. All right. Batman, issue 124, Joshua Williamson writing with Howard Porter on art. So it's a Joshua Williamson double on the show. One of them was much better than the other. I'll say that much. I mean, I didn't like.
It's not bad, right? It's just not good.
I think what's weird about it to me is that it's a follow-up to this character, this Detective Kaya in Banisia, who is now dressing up as Abyss. That's the plot of this, is that she's dressed up as Abyss. She's trying to track down the people who kidnapped and potentially killed her parents. Yeah. And I think my bigger problem with this is that it kind of felt like this wasn't... I felt this was out of character, and this is not a character who's been in that much. But just from the few issues of Batman that Williamson himself wrote, in the arc with Abyss, she didn't feel this, like, I don't want to say psychotic, but this Punisher-esque.
And that's what I don't like. Like, her running around as Abyss makes no sense. Her looking for the people that killed or might have killed her parents, I like that, because it does...
I get her looking, but like... Yeah. And I even get her dressing up as Abyss. The problem is her beating people to a pulp and, like, threatening them and saying, and saying she's going to kill them. It felt a bit... I don't know, like, if you want to tell a story which is Bruce, like, not intervening because he has to let the person choose not to kill the person himself, because otherwise they'll just keep trying. I was like, okay, that's an interesting idea, that he has to just sort of take it on a bit of a leap of faith that they're going to make the right choice. Mm-hmm. That's okay, that's interesting, because he believes in the person, he believes she's good. Okay, give her a chance. That's neat. And so what's funny is, so the issue starts with like a it's like a flashback, and it's meant to mirror the Waynes, right, where they're coming out of the theater, get to the alleyway, and you even see the pearls dropping. And I wasn't mad yet, because I was thinking, okay, as much as I don't need to see the Wayne's death again, and I'm sick of seeing the pearls drop. I don't mind similar events happening that are supposed to parallel or mirror or whatever. That's maybe overdone, but it's a narrative device that I can live with. Halfway through the issue, it gives us an actual flashback to Bruce's parents, and we see the pearls drop again, for real the second time. So then I get annoyed.
I've said this before. If I have to see pearls drop in an alley one more time, I'm going to lose it.
So it's when he's talking to her about like his past and, you know, going after Joe Chill and all that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't care that if it's Fornes drawing it, I don't like it. Right? I love Fornes. We've been over this. One of my favorite working artists. I do not see the Waynes need to bite it again.
Yeah,
also,
I didn't even mention Fornes. He wasn't credited on League of Comic Geeks. That's my bad.
Oh yeah, no, he did the Bruce flashback where he's
no, I can see now that I'm looking at it. It's clearly different from Porter because Porter's very, very scratchy and different.
Yeah, and the Kaya stuff. Even the movie playing was Mark of Zorro or Mask of Zorro, and I was like, this is too on the
like have it be another vigilante movie so that it's kind of similar but not the exact one, but
not the same one, you know. Or you know, it's the let's ageify it, make it like the Untouchables or something. I don't know, like about, you know, having to embrace darkness.
The Phantom starring Billy Zane, that probably lines up time wise.
Yeah, why not? Oh god, I haven't seen that movie since the theater, and even at 11 I knew it was bad.
I'm pretty sure I saw it like 50 times just because it was on like the movie channel constantly for like a year.
Yeah.
But yes, that was the thing that existed. It was like a cross between Indiana Jones and a superhero movie where he was like this adventure, but he had like purple spandex. But
he wore a thick skull ring that he punched people with.
But it was all about, you know, it was set in like the 30s or 40s, and it was all about finding like treasure and tombs and shit. So it was very whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, so but he tries to talk her down. He says that, you know, he snuck into Arkham to like stare the man who killed his parents in the eye, and he turned away and blah blah blah. Yeah, like seeing the pearls drop again, like there's almost like, I'm not saying there's not a single story where there's probably something that could be written that would justify seeing it again. I'm not saying that there's like absolutely no circumstance whatsoever, but I'm going to tell you now, 99 times out of 100 that it's done in a comic book where we see that alleyway again and we see the pearls drop, they didn't need to do it. And this is one of those times.
And for me too, it's up there with the destruction of Krypton. I don't need to see that either.
Sure. Yeah, because like, see, the thing is here is like the important part of the story is that he's saying that when he came back from like traveling and training, that they'd caught the person who killed his parents, Joe Chill, had been arrested, had confessed, and it was about him going to see him, right? So there's a 9-panel grid on this page where it intercuts like him sneaking into Arkham, and like it swaps between that and the alleyway, you know, shooting, right? And I'm like, all you have to do to fix this is for the complaint I have right now is just don't do the flashback panels. Just have it all be him sneaking into Arkham. You can still tell what he's actually talking about is fine and not overdone. He's just talking about the first time he looked at the killer of his parents in the eye, right? Or almost did, because he sort of leaves before he.
Well, and it reminded me of Batman Begins, where we see Bale, you know, with the gun. He's gonna do it, but he can't ultimately. And you know, the whole stuff with Rachel, I like. You know, that's a fine thematic element, and I like that it's here to show the difference with her. But yeah, just her dressing up as Abyss too. That didn't go over well with me. And then the pearls again, and I don't know. It just to cap off Williamson's run, which I mostly enjoyed, and I just kind of felt like a.
I mean, I'll be honest, it's short enough that I wouldn't even really call it a run. It's more just like because it was really just
a stopover.
Well, it was really just the Abyss arc and the Robin Shadow War crossover. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's one arc and a crossover, and the crossover was more of a Robin story.
Right.
That was
I really enjoyed that one. That was Shadow War was fun.
Shadow War was mostly pretty fun, but that was mainly. I mean, obviously some Destro King stuff, but I would say by and large that really tied to Robin. Yeah. So. you know, it's not terrible. Ultimately, though, she decides not to kill the guy that they track down, but he confesses as to where the bodies are buried. So they find him, they arrest him, and the big thing at the end, I suppose, is that Batman gives her the Batman Inc. card, and whooshes away, classic Batman style.
Yep.
So, you know, that first arc, or the majority of this arc that took place before the crossover, suffered immensely from having 3 different artists, and 2 of them were great. And Howard Porter's not a bad artist, but he was so distinct from the other 2 that it was
I don't think he
jarring.
fits Batman very well.
No,
It's
I don't think he
bit
does
too
either.
scratchy. Like, you can do shadowy, but his isn't really shadowy.
I mean,
I
hell,
will say I do love the kineticness Howard Porter has.
that's why he's good in Flash typically.
Yeah.
But because the third artist, I can't remember the name, forgive me, but the third artist that was on the rest of this arc even made Yannen's pages look like a step down, because they were so good. It was those Abyss pages were so amazing.
Yeah.
It's not as bad here, but like it is jarring going from Fornes back to Howard Porter, and it's like, oh, but Fornes.
Yeah. Now, Fornes has a style that is perfectly fit for Batman.
Especially Batman detective stories. Yeah.
Yep. So,
no denying
but
that.
yeah, this was just kind of a disappointment until the backup. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main story. The backup is a Poison Ivy story. It's actually a lead-in to the Poison Ivy book that started this week as well. And it was actually reading this that made me go, you know what? I'll just skip the the Poison Ivy book.
Oh man.
It's not that it's bad. I just I read it and I like WIllow as a writer. You know, I've sung her praises many a time before. In fact, you know, Miss Marvel, the show started this week, and that's her character. She started that, and if you're paying close attention, you can see her name in the first episode. In the school, like the founding people, like it's the creators of the.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a neat little Easter egg, but so yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with this backup, but it just reaffirmed the idea that I don't really care about a Poison Ivy solo book.
So I don't know how long it's gonna last, but if I can get a good year, 12 issues worth.
Is it not a 6-issue mini?
Is it? I don't know.
I thought it was
6? Hold on, let's see.
You tell me. I assumed it was. Maybe it is an ongoing. I don't know.
Shoot, I don't know. Let me see. The cover doesn't say out of.
Oh, maybe it is technically an ongoing then.
Yeah. So if we can just get a good definitive Ivy story, that'd be great, because I feel like she needs more of those. But I like this, and I didn't realize that because we skipped those villain specials, and this is from a story in one of those that G. Williamson did, and it's basically Ivy can't connect to the green anymore because of when they fused her with the Queen Ivy and her other aspect. It cut her off from the way that she used to be able to, and that she's turning back human. So I do like that aspect, that it, because she was forced to go through this change that she didn't want to. Yeah. Now she's gonna take it out on the world.
Well, it's not just that she's going to take it out in the world. She's going to try and get her powers back. She doesn't say who, but she says there's one person who can give me the powers back that I lost, and the gardener begs her not to do it. And that's basically what this backup is. It's just that decision. She's going to go and try and get her powers back from someone that she maybe shouldn't go to.
Which tells me it's either Swamp Thing and the Parliament, or it's Woodrow, right?
Yeah, would you say no, don't do that if it was Swamp Thing she meant? This feels like more severe than that.
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking of, plant characters tied to, and it could be someone completely new too. Who knows? But those are the two that my brain went to. So I think in her newer origin with the gardener, Woodrow was involved, if I remember right. But no, I enjoyed that. I mean, I thought the backup was good and set the tone for the book that I was already excited for.
It wasn't bad. Like it's I get what it's doing, and it sets up the book. But it was kind of like I was kind of like even though it was Wilson who I like, I was like, I don't know if I want to read a Poison Ivy book. And then I read this back and went, you know what, that confirms it. I don't want to.
Oh, dang.
So
dang.
So it's just Matt talking about that later. But all right, what are you giving the main story?
The main story, I'm giving a 6.
I was gonna say that's harsh, but then but it's because I'd forgotten what we talked about, and I was like, oh yeah, it's this book. Yeah. I'll say a 6 as well. I think that's fair. I think that's about fair. All right. You can read the backup as well if you want.
The backup's a 7.5. It's just good enough. Got me excited for the main book.
Sure. All right. Flashpoint Beyond, issue 2, Geoff Johns and Jeremy Adams and Tim Sheridan. Xermanico was on the art as well as someone else, I think. So
we have Yannin.
Yannin, that's who it was. Yeah, Yannin's on one page. So I'm not gonna lie, I almost didn't read this.
Me too. Okay.
Right? And Joe, why it is? It's that first page. That first page made me almost just rage quit. I
was at work and I was reading it early in the morning. You know, I got there a little early, had time to kill. And I opened up my books and I'm like, I'll get Flashpoint Beyond out of the way. I looked at that first page and put it away. I was like, I don't have time for this in the morning. I need my coffee first.
Joe, the funny thing is, though, I actually went a couple of pages ahead and I was like, okay, it calms down. Yeah. It's not actually overstuffed after that. It's just that first page has far too many narration boxes. And because it's in front of like a pinboard with like articles and photographs, it looks even messier as a result. Right. So it just looks like a chore to read. And
this, I classify this story as like, it's bad, but I like that it's bad. Right? Like it's almost self-aware, you know?
I think I'm curious as to what's changed things and what Batman's doing and where the stuff at the end of the issues is going to go. But like, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, so we had that whole running thing last issue where Harvey Dent's kid wants to learn to shoot and Penguin's just letting him do it. And in this issue, Penguin was like, oh, the kid's asking about learning how to use explosives. And Thomas is like, do it. And it made me laugh because it's absurd, but I you know.
Well, and I forgot he owned the casino because it's been forever since I've thought of Flashpoint. And I remember that cover of the Azzarello and Riso Batman book that they did, the 3 issues, where, you know, there's a poker chip. So them seeing the poker chip in this one again. Like, I forgot the casino was his main source of income. You know, he's not a doctor. He's Batman and casino mogul, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, the big thing is he's back in Gotham, obviously, and he hears that Psycho Pirate is like committed suicide in his cell, and Psycho Pirate, as he talks about in his narration, like when reality changes, he remembers everything, right? That's kind of Psycho Pirate, or one of his gimmicks anyway. So he's written things in the wall like I don't think I'm the real Roger Hayden, which is kind of a curious idea. The idea that this is maybe more of a duplicate world than it is like stuff's been changed.
Yeah, like you said, like a copy. It's like a copy of a world.
And I think the fact that there's a bit of there's some discussion at the end about a snow globe, which I think actually thematically ties into that idea that this is inside like a big snow globe, effectively. But he runs into Hilda Dent, who wants to talk about her son, and they have a bit of back and forth, and he tries to ask her like, hey, like, this suicide next door wasn't a suicide. Did anyone go in or out? Because it's made to look like a suicide, right?
Right.
He immediately is like, this is like clearly been presented as such, and she, she's looking at the chip and it's got the scratches like the Harvey Dent coin, and she starts talking about Bruce and is very hostile towards him. She actually turns into Martha during the scene for a little bit, and then
the Joker, yeah,
and she doesn't have the Joker paint on though. It's just like regular Martha, yeah.
The red hair, it's shorter. She changes, so it's what he's seeing in this, which I thought was an odd story choice, right? Because he's seeing a mother that's mourning her kids and family, and that's her future to him.
Yeah, well, she calls him a bad father, and then he punches the window in the door in out of anger.
Not proving it wrong.
And she ends up with like blood in her face, and she looks kind of two-faced. So pretty funny. Again, I don't think it's supposed to be funny. But...
No, that's what I mean. Like, is it self-aware? Is it not? I don't know, because like we found the death of Barry Allen very funny.
Oh, it was hilarious. I mean, I've been saying since issue, this is issue 2 technically, but issue 0 happened, so it's the 3rd issue.
Yeah.
This is car crash comic book. I can't look away in a car crash way.
Right. Like, again, it's not good, and I'm reading it, and I'm not going like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. In the way I'm invested in the story, it's like, well, what else are they going to do? Right? Like,
and I will say, there is that glorious full-page spread. There's like a woman being mugged, and Batman has this full... I say Batman, Thomas Wayne Batman. Lands in the alleyway, and there's like lightning behind him. It's a fantastic page.
So I'm trying to see how this ties into the whole Dark Crisis thing and Pariah and the Snow Globe, and because remember, Dr. Batman was going around with President Superman. That's how we got that name. So when I brought that up that he's Dr. Batman, so now I'm trying to think, like, is this a world?
And they mentioned Dark Crisis in the book because earlier the other cop or whoever it was said that Psycho Pirate keeps saying that he's hiding here from a dark crisis.
Yeah.
So it's actually running concurrently in some way. So, I mean, let's say all the Justice League right now are trapped in their own worlds. Maybe like Psycho Pirate is, or like Thomas Wayne is. Maybe that's because Thomas Wayne, like, who killed him? Did he die in a similar way to the Justice League where he got disintegrated? I feel like he may have
not quite disintegrated, but it was by the darkness. It was the dark. It was before Darkseid was possessed, I think.
So I wonder if it's like a set, like taking people and putting them in their own bubbles,
kind of like Wally is, or not Wally, Barry is.
Yeah.
In that golden age, silver agey looking.
That's right. He's got this perfect weird 50s looking like life.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this is something similar, and we're just getting the Flashpoint.
What was that in? What was that scene in? Was that the end of?
There was I think Justice League Incarnate.
Was it okay? Yeah. Trying to remember what that was, but yeah. So Thomas is like beating the shit out of people. Captain Boomerang's one of the muggers. I actually, he kind of said, he started speaking to himself in his narration, and he says that, well, this world is not supposed to exist. So when I fix everything, everything will go back to normal. So he's kind of like, I could just kill everyone I want, and it wouldn't matter.
Justifying it, yeah.
Because everything's going to be reset anyway, so therefore it doesn't matter. But he actually does hesitate when he's holding the gun. And he sort of sees, like, almost as if he's aiming the gun at Bruce, and he sort of has a memory of that. So it's like he's actually hesitating. But just before he can make his choice, who shows up but Flashpoint Superman in his weird outfit?
Yep. The -1.
Yeah.
Of it all. Yeah.
And he says everything matters, because he just said it didn't. And then we get our last couple of pages, which is the little kid from the Time Masters talking about, hey, Bruce, You got that watch from Manhattan and that, but who you took the snow globe from, like, that's bringing on some heat. Like, they're going to come.
Yeah.
So,
which makes me wonder, because he's talking about how, he's talking about Rip Hunter, and you don't do that, and it causes ripple, and I wonder who they're talking about. So it's crazy.
Yeah, I am curious, it has to be said. The stuff in the end of the issues, I'm really intrigued, and how it ties in any way to Dark Crisis. I am fascinated by, but
because it feels like Bruce has something to do with this, and I don't know if I'm reading it right or not.
Well, the thing is, though, like, when I said it's running concurrently to Dark Crisis, obviously Bruce is technically missing and or dead in Dark Crisis, so the Bruce parts had to have taken place beforehand, or possibly after Dark Crisis, depending on what the reveal is of what he's doing. Right. Maybe this is something he did after Dark Crisis happens, or maybe it's something he did just before. I don't know, but I am morbidly curious. I suppose is the best way I can describe my interest in this book. Which, to be fair, it's impressive that I still feel that way after 3 issues of it, because typically you're morbidly curious for the first issue, then you see what it is and you're like, okay, I can stop reading this now. I am still morbidly curious after 3 issues, so it's at least doing one thing right.
I agree. It's like you said it right. It's car crash comic books.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what else to say, to be honest. Some of the art is pretty good. Like, I can't fault the art. Like I say, that full page spread of Batman landing in the alleyway is pretty spectacular. It almost caught me off guard because like nothing in there. I mean, the art wasn't bad before then, but there was nothing flashy. There was nothing like, oh, here's some great pages or whatever. But then you hit that page, it's like, oh shit, this is like a pin-up all of a sudden. Like, where did this come from?
Xermanico has those flourishes that we've seen in Flash and other books.
Well, Xermanico's a great artist. I mean, if anything, I'd say he's punching below his weight in this.
Yeah. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we're gonna build to more, like you said, it's more journeyman stuff where like, yeah, the art's fine, but nothing notable. So he's almost building up these moments as the story goes. But yeah, not 100% on it. But yeah, I'm glad it wasn't just me that has these same feelings. I'm glad that we at least line up on that. So,
yeah, well, we'll see where it goes next issue.
Yeah,
right? Because it could be anywhere, quite frankly. What are you giving Flashpoint Beyond issue 2?
I'm in that 6.5.
I'm tempted to give it a 7, but not because it really deserves it, but because that's the level of which I'm enjoying it, but not necessarily all for the right reasons.
Yeah, I get you.
So there's something to be said for that. But yeah, I did enjoy it more than Batman, so there you go. All right, Batman, Killing Time, issue 4, Tom King writing, David Marquez on the art. Still playing with the time, jumping back and forth. Now we revolve around a meet between Riddler and the woman who is purchasing the mysterious item. But we also see that she has replaced all of the workers at this diner with her own people. But Riddler's also stashed Catwoman in like a cupboard, and she's going to jump out and help. So that's stuff that it bounces around, sets up, and pays off as it's going.
This story, and I love it for this, is needlessly elaborate.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many different things going on that it is really hard for me to keep everything straight. So I'm curious to see how this reads once it's released in a trade, because you're going to not have the time in between the books to remember all the stuff, So I will say that the addition of the Help, it might be one of my favorite Tom King things, because this is a character that I wasn't here. Yeah, I wasn't here to talk about him last time because I was on vacation, but I just he's has the evil anti-Batman.
Oh, that's right. Because Cara never read it, so I had to talk about him on my own. But I really like the whole, after he beat Batman in a fight, he's like, "Hey, you could be good if you want training. come and speak to him."
And I'm reading him as Jason Statham because he's a bald, scary guy. So reading that voice with that, the gruffness. So them teaming up here even more, and then what we learn about the Help. In this book too, I was like, oh man, it's one of my favorite Tom King additions to the Batman lore.
Yeah, the Help in this issue, he's obviously very violent, as we know. He goes into a petrol station, a gas station, for a map, and the guy's like, "Dude, what year is it? Like, use your phone." And he's like, "I don't have a phone." He's like, "You should get one then." And then he kills the guy and takes his phone. Yeah, it's took his advice.
No country for old men, right? Yeah.
So basically, he wants to track down Batman. He knows that he figures that Batman will probably check this zoo, and sure enough, there's a bunch of we keep cutting back to Batman like dodging and fighting tigers throughout the issue, and the Help shows up and helps.
Yeah.
But
that's what he does.
But he's like, "Hey, I want to find this item. You want to find this item, and maybe when we get to the point where we actually have it within reach, we'll have to once again go toe to toe. But until then, yeah. So it's basically Royal Rumble rules. We're going to team up until the prize is within sight, and then we can do the fight. But Batman's not excited about it. But obviously he needs to find them. Needs to find Selina. Needs to find Riddler. The other big thing though is that Penguin wakes up in the hospital and pulls out his his medical apparatus. And this is a demonic page. Like, see the page where he screams when he pulls out his tube from his mouth? That is like a horror page. And later on, like, they never show him clearly. Like, there's another scene later on where he's clearly talking to Two-Face. And you can it doesn't reveal Two-Face's face either. You just see like the coin being flipped, and you see the silhouettes of them standing on like the docks. And it's basically Penguin is hiring for a night. He gives Two-Face a lot of money and says, "I need all of your goons, all of your men for one thing, for one night." And there's an implication that this is not the only people that he's hiring. He's actually going around all of the other villains and getting all of their goons, because he's going to put on an assault, presumably on Riddler and Catwoman.
Right.
Because they betrayed him.
By proxy, Batman and the Help, right?
Yeah. So I thought that stuff was really well handled, and it kind of like built me up for some suspense where I was like, oh, I'm actually really excited about this. And obviously the stuff with the Riddler and the woman sitting talking about, like, because she's like, well, I sent the guy with the money to come get the thing, and he turned up dead. It's not my fault you didn't get it. He went where you told him to. Give me my item. And Riddler's like, no, pay me. It's like, I sent the money to you. So
yeah, their little back and forth was great.
It's good. I think what makes it work as well as an issue is that the whole time she thinks she's got the upper hand, and we see that she's got the upper hand because she's replaced all the employees with her own people. Right. But then Riddler's just as cocky, and then eventually Catwoman kills like all of her men, and it's like, oh shit, you never had the upper hand. You thought you did.
Yes.
But theater is. So yeah, I enjoyed all that stuff. And then of course it ends with Batman the Help. They investigate this diner at the end, and the Help's like, well, it looks like nothing ever happened, but because he's an expert, he's like, I know what to look for, and they've cleaned it up. Whatever went down here, there was something violent, but it was cleaned up. Yep. So yes, so we have to go. So that's basically the end of the issue. There's also these like historic flashbacks that thematically tie in.
The ancient Greek stuff with the the queen that killed her son, put his head on a spike, but she was in such a such a ecstatic mental state from Dionysus that she doesn't realize it's her son until it's already too late.
And then it jumps ahead to like 500 years later where they're doing a play of this event. Right. Yeah. I do have to admit, like, a lot of the dialogue in the play section is just kind of like was a blur to me.
It's tough. I just skimmed it just because that's all old, Greek playwright stuff.
Yeah, so, I have a hard time reading that stuff, so I get the idea of what it's doing. Yep. I'm sure there's some nuance in here that I would get if I could understand this, but I'm just going to skip past it.
I agree. But it's also revealed that the Help has ties to Ra's al Ghul.
Oh yeah.
That's why he's so long lived, and Ra's calls him son, which I don't think it's his actual biological son.
No.
But I do think he was someone that he looked at as a successor, like Bruce.
They did imply last issue that he can recognize Ra's al Ghul's training. Yep. So, but yeah, he never sees like his face, and I don't think ever sees Bruce's face. But there's a moment where you can sort of tell Bruce is one of the ninjas who's training. Yep. And he mentions like, hey, this guy's the one. He's my heir, kind of thing.
Yeah. And so it feels like the Help was someone that was earmarked and special to Ra's, and then something happened.
And it was Ra's who gave Bruce this item as well. So
yeah. But something happened which led to him going and lending his services out across whatever. But I do like that tie. That why he's so invested in this thing too is it ties back to him and who he is.
Yeah, because last issue it felt almost abrupt. Oh, and I like the twist though. I like the twist that he goes to Penguin and says, "No, I'm claiming this for myself. I'm no longer working for you, Penguin." I like that moment. Here it gives it a little bit of context where once he found out what the item was, he's like, wait, I know that item. I've been thinking about that item ever since I saw it that one time when Raz, whipped it out. So maybe that's what it is. It's just Raz's dick.
Nah. But yeah. No, it's just really good. It's another thing I'm glad we lined up on is the Greek text stuff. I was just like, I'm reading this late at night. And I'm just like,
what's funny is the one of us who might like it out of the three of us is Connor, but Connor wasn't reading the book.
And Connor would pick out all the nice little nuance in it, and but yeah, no, that's very funny.
Yeah. It's I just thought of the boys because I mentioned Ra's al Ghul's dick.
Yes.
Just
I don't need to know. I don't.
But I'm not going to say what it is, but there was something that was created as a meme a number of years ago, which I think inspired a certain scene in The Boys, most recent episode. And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so no, I like this issue quite a bit. Marquez's art, of course, is
It's
great.
top notch.
Yeah, it's very consistent, and it's very expressive, which is especially good when you've got scenes like the Riddler, like and because it's basically a Tarantino scene where it's just two people at a table talking, but there's so much layered into their intentions and like what's been revealed around them. In fact, obviously Tarantino doesn't jump around as much as this comic does, but the idea of jumping back to earlier and showing you when they set up the trap is actually very Tarantino.
Yes.
So, there's a little bit of that in here.
And not just the jump around, but the way that there's like 4 different plans in play, right? Like we have Riddler's plan, we have Batman's plan, we have the Help, and then we have Penguin. And then it feels like Catwoman, I'm sure she has her own thing going on too. But and each plan involves the other person at a certain point too. So it's all very intricate. It's very clockwork.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Catwoman's not actually murdered anyone. She's just injured them. And it turns out she's actually kind of in cahoots with Batman by the end somehow.
Right.
I don't know how I don't know if it adds up exactly, but I feel like there's maybe going to be a twist at some point in this, but we'll see. So yeah, this is issue 4 of 6.
We're past the halfway point.
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed this, to be honest. This is better than anything King's done Batman-wise since before the wedding, probably. Well, no, I like the jury stuff with Mr. Freeze. Yeah. That was probably the last Tom King Batman thing that I really, really loved.
The jury stuff is my favorite Batman stuff that King did, but this is coming to a close second. Yeah. I'm really enjoying this.
All right. What you rating Batman Killing Time issue 4?
8.5.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 8.5. Really good. So cool. All right, Poison Ivy issue 1. WIllow Wilson writing with Marcio Takara on the art. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah. So this was set up in the backup to Batman 124, and it's Ivy trying to get control of who she is, because now she feels that when she got separated, there was the Queen Ivy persona, and she had basically Gotham in her hand, and at any point she could, bring its reckoning down. So she had all this power because she had separated her human or compassionate side. And then when the gardener and Harley put her back together, it stripped her of that power, or at least that's how she feels. And so in order to try to reclaim some of this power, she is driving across the country, and she has a plan that by the time everyone figures out what she's doing, it'll be too late. And that it involves using the mushroom Ophidia cordyceps. I can't remember the second half of it. I'm gonna have to look through. But it's this parasitic fungus that I'm sure people have seen it, where it infects like an ant, and it completely turns the ant into a zombie, and then it takes the ant to the highest point where it'll fall off, and then it'll release some more spores. And so what Ivy's doing is she's going across the country and infecting people with this Ophidia cordyceps, and just leaving a reign of terror across. And as she's going, it looks as if she's peeling away the green. So she is really, the loss from Queen Ivy to back almost to Pamela Isley, who has a little bit of control of certain things, is really what's causing her to do this. She's struggling to have her relevance. And we find out that she stole a van from these 2 people she came across. She infected them with the Ophidia cordyceps. And they're blooming in the back, and she uses that to infect other people. So early on in the book, she comes across this ranch, and these 2 ranchers are trying to figure out what happened to the cows. She's there, and she infects them, and you find out that it's quick acting, and that she could see that this guy, as he has the gun, that she kind of wanted him to pull the trigger in things, but there's a part of it that she knows that she can't. But it winds up, she's driving across the country, she winds up in this bar, and she flashes back to Harley, and that Harley's upset that she's going to leave, and she's upset with Harley because when she had Gotham in the palm of her hands as Queen Ivy, they took that away from her. And, you know, that's the most powerful she had meant. And they, you know, because of her compassion, it was taken from her. So in this bar, these two guys hit on her. They think she's a sex worker. They won't take no for an answer. She goes to leave. They come outside the bar and it starts to get dicey.
I want to quote Arnold here. I want to say big
yes.
mistake in Arnold's voice.
Yes. And she deals with them and infects them with the fungus. And we kind of see what they see when they're infected with it. And she says that it's her only pathway into the green is when she infects people with this, is that she almost gets a charge off of it. And she sees this kind of psychedelic world where she is still the poison ivy that we know, right? She still has her power. And wherever she's going, she feels like this is how she's going to get that power back. Takara's art here, when it gets to the psychedelic-y, it's not psychedelic in that way where everything's like lush and it's almost scary. There's really jagged points. Her hair's all wild. She has claws, and it's quite frightening. So it's definitely, you know, Ivy is embracing the villain side of here. But it's, you know, she still is having these second thoughts because of, you know, who she is. And as she leaves, you know, she's talking about how, you know, that humanity is an invasive species and that the only way to deal properly with an invasive species is to remove them. And so as she drives away from this bar parking lot, the two people that she just turned into these basically mushroom colonies starts to twitch. And that's where the book ends. But yeah, I don't fully buy her being this full villain. I feel like by the end, because the way that she talks about Harley, and at first she was upset because you know, she felt like she was finally at her peak and it was taken away from her because of her ties to humanity. I feel like that's the point of the book going forward, is that she's always going to have these ties no matter what, right? She's not a purely plant being anymore. And I like that Wilson, you know, pulled that from her, is that we see in the Batman backup that she wrote, you know, she's peeling, you know, the green's peeling off of her. And so here she still has some control of things, but it's almost like it's waning. So it's her coming to terms with that she's still human and she's still part of the vivacious species, and that she'll have to go too. But, you know, by the time everyone figures out what she's doing, it's going to be too late. So I fully expect to see the gardener and Ivy and some of these other, you know, people from, you know, Ivy's sphere showing up and how it impacts them. But I thoroughly enjoyed this book. A shocker, right? Just Takara's art is the perfect showcase here. I really liked what they were doing in Wonder Woman through that arc with the what were they, the duplicates, you know, where it's things feel just off enough to feel like there's something wrong. But so like in the pages with Ivy, you know, feels like she's up to something, but you're not quite sure. But no, it's a really good book. And I'm curious to see where it goes, how long it lasts, because if this is only like a 6-issue thing, I mean, this seems to be the Ivy kind of book that we needed, kind of like Cycle of Life and Death was, where it kind of resets her as a character. But yeah, no, I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Okay. Did you panic because I left you alone?
A little bit, but I got out what I needed to say.
But you got to pee, all right? It seemed like a good time for it.
I felt like Garth in Wayne's World, where when Wayne leaves him, but I couldn't go, hey, what's that?
I mean, I've left you and Connor together on your own many a time.
But that's different because I have Connor to bounce off of. Just by myself to vamp. I probably talked way too fast. They always say, you know, when wrestlers went into NXT and they would learn from Triple H, he'd tell them, if you think you're going too fast, slow down. And then if you think you're going too slow, slow down. You know, because on TV it looks different. I felt like I probably needed to slow down, but I just couldn't. So, you know, lesson learned.
There you go. Dark Knights of Steel, issue 7, Tom Taylor, writing with Nathan Gooden on the art, which that's a different artist. I don't recognize that name.
Yeah, no, it's not the artist that who's been doing it. I'm drawing a blank. So that was a bit disappointing, but it's still good.
Yeah, so this is we never saw Bruce last issue, right? We never.
Yep.
Because we got that ending where he was picked up by the Kents, but we never actually got to see the aftermath of that. So this issue focuses entirely on that. It starts off with him having a nightmare of the elves coming and killing him and burning everyone else to a crisp with their heat vision. And he wakes up in a cold sweat. And it does this thing where you actually can't tell. I mean, see, when you look at it, and once you know that it's Beast Boy, you can see that it's slightly green, but it sort of plays it like the lighting, the coloring is. It's almost just like it's just lighting in the room rather than he's actually green. So when it's revealed in a couple of pages that it's actually Beast Boy, and that's why he could talk, you're like, that makes sense. So it turns out that the Kents have actually been kind of a safe haven for young meta, humans, right? So in this case, it's the New Teen Titans, right? It's Raven, Cyborg, and who's the other one that's there? Starfire.
You have, Starfire, Cyborg, Beast Boy, and Raven. And these are the Titans that Roz was talking about in the last issue.
Yeah.
That he wants.
So they all don't like Bruce because Bruce has spent his life hunting down metahumans. But this is very much an issue where Bruce has to kind of accept that he's been kind of wrong and apologizes to them. And because there's even a joke where he's like, I'm sorry for what I've... Because even at the start of the issue when he wakes up, he says some pretty unnice things. And he tries to apologize, and Cyborg's like, I've never been apologized to by a prince before. Maybe some more groveling would be good.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more of this, and you get this idea that the Kents are these really good-natured people who take in those who are different. So it really fits with
the wayward ones.
It fits off with who they are. Dick shows up, and Starfire actually holds him upside down. But he's actually there to warn Bruce because of what the elves are doing. The war's happening.
Yeah.
But also
Kingdoms.
That Ra's al Ghul is outside and wants the Titans. And this is kind of like Bruce's proper hero journey where he's like, no, I'm going to protect you all. I'm going to go out there and be the Batman Knight and do this. And of course the Kent's like, no, we're suiting up as well. So they get their armor on.
Yeah, because before we were this, way station for kids that needed help, we were soldiers. Well, the Pa Kent was at least. And yeah, so I like that. So he's like, we
it was both of them. I think I said we.
Did it say we?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they were both soldiers. They're not going to go down without a fight, which I loved.
Yeah. So Raz turns into Etrigan, which obviously that was revealed. Previously.
The demon. New spin on the demon's head, which I do love.
And all of these ninjas are basically zombies. Because they're all from Lazarus pits and stuff. So it's like, you don't have to hold back Kents, you can kill them. No. But Batman goes through the wall, and the Titans decide that they're going to join in, and we get this. It's actually probably this is the most nerdy kind of like. This is just Taylor having fun with doing weird shit. Is Beast Boy says, no, we should join the fight with you, Batman, and he's like, no, like I don't think a dog's going to help in the fight.
A talking dog.
Yeah, and Beast Boy says, I can turn into any animal that I've seen, and believe me, I've seen some weird shit. And then the next page is he's turned into a dragon, because this is a fantasy world where dragons exist. So Beast Boy has turned into a freaking dragon, which I don't think because he can't like turn into mythical creatures in like the real DC universe, right?
No, he's a lot like Vixen. I believe his power comes from the morphogenic field, like Animal Man and Vixen. But because he's become dinosaurs before. But they're part of the morphogenic field. But
presumably, though, he surely when that's happened, though, it's because there's been a dinosaur that he's actually been able to be near.
Tap into.
Yeah. Right. So you can't just pull it from history. No. So, I mean, someone's probably going to pull out some weird story where he's turned into a dragon before, and that's okay. But I presume the context for it's always, they've been transported to another world where dragons exist.
Where dragons exist.
Yeah, or whatever.
An alien world, right?
Where's aliens?
Like
Yeah. But this is obviously just a normal thing in this world that there's a dragon. So
so the cover has Batman or Bat Knight riding a dragon, and I know covers aren't usually indicative, but the fact that Tom Taylor gave us Batman on a dragon, and the dragon happens to be Beast Boy, it just makes me so happy.
Yep. Absolutely. And obviously, there's this kind of interesting bit where Talia talks to Batman, and so obviously we know from the real universe that they have this history, but they don't hear. So there's a weird bit of like meta tension for the reader, I think.
But it does feel like she's reserved more, where she's not agreeing with her father, and she sees something in Bruce that she likes. So I did like that tension there.
Yeah. So very neat. But yeah, so this war's all kicking off, and basically, not unlike the Kents, to sort of inspire a hero to go and do something good, but they basically say, hey, these powers are a gift, they're a responsibility, and if you can go and help stop a war, then that's where you need to be. Because Bruce wants to stay. By the end of this little story where he's fought off Ra's al Ghul and that, he's like, I'm going to stay here and help protect these kids because I kind of owe it to them. And the Kent's like, no, like if you can prevent a war, this 3-way war that's about to kick off because of what's happened, you need to go and help stop that. So that's kind of the it's basically he's getting a Pa Kent speech, but it's not Superman, it's Batman. Although he has Superman's powers, so it's a very confusing web of logic.
Yeah, but, Taylor's really done this thing because I still don't know what to trust about the L's, because I feel like there's something else going on. That nothing's what it seems.
Well, we know Zala didn't actually kill Jefferson. That was revealed, right? So
right, and the same with Clark, or with Cal, and Bruce. I feel like there's more going on there because they also say that they pulled out a green chunk out of him. They can't say that, So I'm wondering if that has to do with the kryptonite. I'm not sure, but there's something going on with the Green Man. I feel.
Yeah, we know there's a green man, a green villain who's pulling a lot of strings here, so we don't know. Yeah. We've speculated in the past of who it might be, but they're still kind of keeping that close to the chest for now.
So, but we'll see how that all goes, because I'm loving how the story's unfolding. I like the introduction of the Titans here. I love the Kents being like this, house where people pass through that are different, and they talk about their first, the first one they found was Aquaman. Right, he was a half.
Yeah.
He was the prince of the seas that was half human, and didn't feel like he was part of either world, but now he's he's a ruler there.
They joke about how he was very insecure, but now he's got this massive ego.
Yeah, and so I just love that aspect of the Kents here, and them having Starfire and Cyborg, and I'm trying to think how Cyborg works here. Like, is he steam powered? Like. What's going on there?
It's mythical. It's mythical robotic armor. It's not technology, I guess.
Yeah, so, and then Raven and her stuff and her magic. I liked all that. So it's a lot of fun. But again, Batman got to ride a dragon, and that's cool. So thank you, Tom Taylor.
Yeah. No, this is probably one of my more favorite issues. I mean, the art's actually very good. So it was one of those things where I saw it was a different name and went, oh no.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh no, this is actually really solid and it fits the style. But I'm sure if you compare it to the issues, the weird thing, because we had like a fill-in artist for that flashback issue that we had in the middle, and that was fair enough. But it feels like very quickly we've went on to another fill-in artist, albeit a good one. So maybe there has been a bit of an issue keeping the artist on schedule for this. We got like maybe I think we got the first 5 uninterrupted, but then it's went a bit. Maybe the first 5, I think. Yeah, so that's a bit of a shame, but it's it's good. Given that it's like a 12-issue series, though, it is kind of weird that they wouldn't just choose to like have a couple of gaps or one big gap in the middle to like let the artist get ahead. Ongoing comics, it's kind of impossible unless they work in a certain quick style that lets them keep that monthly rotation going. But when it comes to like prestige minis or things like that, like. Give them a bit of extra time. It's fine. Human Targets went on a break in the middle, so it can keep the same artist, and good because the art is phenomenal, and that would feel different if it wasn't him.
Did I tell you that I went back and I read his Vampironica that Smallwood did?
I did not. You did not. No.
Yeah, so I went and read it, and it's very Buffy-esque, but it stops being his art after the first issue. And it's kind of a letdown. Yeah, because you're like, oh, he's drawing all this Archie stuff and vampires, and then it's someone who it's very similar to Smallwood, but you can tell it's not. And he did the art breakdowns, so yeah, it definitely helps if you could keep it. And that was only 4 issues, and I know Smallwood's busy and had other things going on, but but yeah, if Putri needed a break, they could have built it in, I guess, and did something. But I don't know. The art was still good here. Like, I'm not complaining, like you said, about the art. It's just it's not Putri when I was expecting it. So it's a small complaint, but it's there.
Yeah. All right. What are you rating Darkness Steel issue 7?
I'm giving this an 8.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I have been a little lower compared to you and Connor on this series just because of taste, but I would actually agree this one's an 8. I think this is one of the best issues that it's had. Maybe it's because it's playing into more who these characters are rather than the fantasy tropes, other than the dragon, of course.
Right.
Being
and how they relate to this world,
Yeah. But it's playing on like what these characters are at their core and playing them off of each other, and that's far more interesting to me than the fantasy stuff. So cool. All right, there you go. That is that. Aquaman Andromeda issue 1. Ram V writing with Christian Ward on the art. So this is a Black Label Prestige Books, one of these big chunky 50-pagers. It almost feels like an indie book in the sense that it's set in a world where Aquaman exists, but Aquaman is a relatively small character, is very mythical in this, and we mostly focus on the crew of a submarine that is launched from another ship called the Andromeda, which is going down to investigate a mysterious, seemingly UFO that crashed into the ocean.
So the point that it's going to is where for decades now they've dropped like spaceships and satellites because it's the deepest point from anywhere on Earth, right? It's the middle of the ocean.
Well, not just that. It's the deepest. It's the furthest away from civilization, but it's also because of the something to do. They say it in the book.
International waters, right?
Well, no. It's something to do with the area, but it kind of like stops like all the nutritional water from like going there, so there's not even that much wildlife. It's kind of like a dead area in the ocean, but there's not even a lot of sea life.
Well, and I took that's because it's so isolated and it's so deep, right? Like there's like not even life goes there. It's where stuff goes to die.
Well, no, they actually say it in the book what causes it. There's it's a water thing, like the.
Man, I need to read this more carefully. I was just taking it as
like I can't explain it. I'm assuming it's based on something kind of true, but I don't know. Maybe it's bollocks. But I'm trusting Ram V knows what he's doing here.
Yeah.
But it's a line in the book which I thought was kind of neat. It's like part of the reason why it's chosen to dump stuff, and I also assumed this was kind of true. Like maybe they dump like certain ships here or something. I don't know. But yeah, so we get introduced this character, Yvette, who's kind of our main character who's on this crew. And they're on this mysterious, mission, and there's a bunch of different scientists who have been assembled for this. So it's very much like a lot of different movies that bring a lot of different specialists together for like a first contact situation. But the way this thing crashed into the water suggests some form of intelligence because it's picked this area specifically. The way it crashed was kind of suspicious. So this hard ass captain is taking them down here, and he's like explaining to them that this is a potential first contact. Yeah, so this is called the Spacecraft Cemetery, because every major space program has been using this as a dumping ground since the 70s. I'm assuming that's based on some truth. That feels like a bit
there's a specific name to it, Point Nemo. I'm gonna look this up.
I'm assuming that's based on some sort of real nerd trivia. But yeah, it's very interesting. The nutrient-rich waters don't go there. That's what I was looking for earlier. Yeah. Which is so there's nothing thrives in this part of the ocean. So it's a very dead area. So yeah, so they all sort of debate what they're doing there. It's all top secret. They say they can still leave at this point. This is the point of no return. No, they can send an NDA and leave, but they all stick around. And we get a little bit of character from some of the others, but it's mainly Yvette, and there's like a Russian dude who we get a little bit of, who's kind of like, if they've got me here, then it's because it might go south, kind of thing. He's kind of that type of character, right?
Yeah.
And the captain kind of admits that there's not, like, at least he's not admitting there's a contingency plan if they're hostile, whatever this thing is, or whatever these beings are. So I think the clear thing I would want to get across about this issue is that there is some Aquaman stuff, and basically it's just him going to visit this small village, but he's staying off the grid. He doesn't want the world to know where he is or anything like that. But other than like sort of like a cool appearance later in the book, there's not a lot of them, and there's a little bit of a tease that Black Adam's also not Black Adam, sorry,
Black Manta.
Sorry, we're talking about a lot about Black Adam today. Black Manta has been hired to go and seek this thing out as well by someone super top secret as well. So he's been paid off to go and try and find this thing too. So he's going to intersect later on, presumably as well. But the main thing this book is that it's any movie where a group of characters is put together to go and investigate the mysterious object, right? That's what it is, but it's underwater rather than space, which it maybe is more commonly tends to be. And the weird thing is that when I got to the first Aquaman bit, where it's like him visiting this small village and helping them build stuff in the summer, I was like, you know what, this is all right, but like, get back to the ship. I want these original characters back. I want the adventure. I want the first contact story.
Yeah, it was the Aquaman stuff I liked, but it was very much detached. Like, it was an Aquaman that I was like, what is going on? He's going and talking to this elder on this, Russian island. They're like First Nations people up in Kamchatka. And, it's someone that's very familiar with Arthur and stuff, which I liked, but it was very like, I don't know. It was a weird, detached Arthur Curry, which wasn't fun to read. And then we got to the Black Manta stuff, which I was like, oh, he's doing pirate stuff.
Well, and that immediately tied into what was going on, because he's going for the same, it's not technically a UFO because it just crashed. They don't know for sure it was flying, so I guess it's more of an unidentified, crashed object.
Then the Black Manta stuff was like, okay, this is the Aquaman stuff that I recognize, that he's going down there. Everyone has a price. Yeah, and he takes from people because he's a pirate. And then we get back to the fun stuff, which is the crew on the ship.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that gets me is obviously there's a great atmosphere to it, because you've got all these like panels that are surrounded by like water, sort of in the surrounding like background, and it's very sort of like stylized water. So it has this feeling the whole time that they're just plunging to the depths. It almost feels like a 60s movie, the way it's like all these characters on a ship going to like some weird unforeseen part of the ocean, and you build a bit of character. Even this like submarine that they're on has got like kind of a mysterious like engine that's really fancy, like because like she's looking at it at one point and it's this big orb, and the Russian guy starts like talking about it, and she's like, hey, do you know what this is? And they're kind of keeping it under wraps, but all he got was prototype quantum gravity propulsion drive. So it's it's this high tech thing. So even the like whoever sent them here, like the ship they came in on, like pretended to be like a cargo vessel, but it's actually so they're keeping everything very secretive. And so where did these orders come from? I mean, the captain says that all of the governments of these various like countries they came from all agreed that these are the people that should go on this mission, which implies it's a joint country thing. But when the big thing goes down later, which we'll get to in a minute, he mentions, 3 navies are going to be coming to this location. So it sounds like the militaries and navies of these countries don't know what's going on. So this is like ultra top secret.
Yeah, so they're going so low that it's kind of anyone's game under the ocean. But if they were to surface to check on the ship, that's going to put them in danger, because like you said, the 3 different Navy showing up.
To make it fired on, yeah. Which says to me that, okay, so you're saying that all the countries agreed on these people. Is that a lie? Because it could be. Or is it a case of like, like the top secret brass have agreed on this, but like it's so top secret they can't tell their chain of command about it, and they can't tell like
or what if this is a corporate thing?
Yeah,
right?
that's that. If it's a lie, it's probably corporate, is what
because it made me think of Aliens.
Weyland Yutani, bit of that. I'm on board with it.
That's what made me think of that. Also, real quick, so I started looking at Point Nemo.
Oh, sure.
And apparently, there's a lot of Lovecraftian lore around this.
But is Point Nemo a real thing?
It's a real place. It's a real place, and it is like it's in the middle of the South Pacific Gyre, where the current, because of where it's at and how deep that it is, all that nutrition stuff, that's all real. So there's not a lot of stuff. The water's a different color, but that's where H.P. Lovecraft said that Cthulhu's home stems from. So knowing that this is going to go into some psychological places based off of, you read the back cover, I'm wondering if it's not going to be Cthulhu, but if there's something similar, if there's like a madness, right? That
we're definitely going places with it. I think I do love this idea. There's this natural phenomena where part of the ocean is this extra dead. I mean, to be honest, the ocean looks like a big dead body of space to us anyway. But the idea that even from a marine life point of view, there's a dead section of the ocean that, like, in the same way that like writers can use space to be this vacuum that add it to the horror. You can use this like part on Earth as like, oh, this is really mysterious, and this like anything could be down there that's hidden because nothing lives there. So
just here's a real fun fact about Point Nemo is like it is so deep that if you sailed there, the closest human beings to you would be the astronauts aboard the International Space Station, passing 416 kilometers overhead. The nearest inhabited landmass to Point Nemo is over 2,700 kilometers to the Easter Islands, which I believe they bring up in the book.
Yeah.
As the crew talks about Easter Island being the closest there. So, like, yeah, there might as well be in deep space at this point.
Well, I mean, deep space and, like, deep underwater have always felt somewhat similar. Obviously...
Gives me anxiety. No matter.
Obviously, I would say the water feels slightly better in the sense that, a vacuum will kill you pretty quickly. I mean, so will the water if you're not.
Yeah, I mean the pressure once you have a certain certain.
Oh,
depth,
of course, yeah, absolutely. The pressure is something that pressure is the thing that everyone forgets about. I think when you talk about going deep underwater. But anywho, so the Russian guy's kind of talking to Yvette a little bit. Yvette started the book talking about her father, like loving being out in the water. It was always kind of something like to do, and it led to her being a marine biologist, which is what her speciality is. But something happens where this unidentified object, this big thing, sends out some kind of shockwave or signal, and one of the scientists, the one who's there, like monitoring that kind of thing, picks up on it, calls everyone in, they talk about what's happening, and it's right after this where he says something's coming from it, like this has done something, and right then is a panel of the book that this guy was reading. Is like you can see what it is that says Kraken rises, and sure enough, the next bit of the book is the ship that they came from above, the Esperanza, and you get some classic panels of the radar and like something's coming towards the boat, and then you get like what looks like a tentacle coming out of the fog, right? I love this page, and then the next page is the full page spread of the giant tentacle coming up overhead, and then the 2-page spread of all the tentacles just crushing the ship in the middle, and we see like some of the sailors get onto lifeboats and things like that. And then down in the submarine, they're like shit, like something's just attacked that boat, like we don't know what's going on with it. Should we turn back now? Is this thing going to be hostile? And the captain's like, no, we have to go ahead. We can't go up because all these navies from all these countries are going to like be aware this has happened now, that this ship, and they're going to discover quite quickly that ship was a lie. That what it was pretending to be was untrue, and so we can't go up and help because the rest of the crew, they want to go up and like basically we can act as a lifeboat. We can like take on like all the people who survived, but then of course the interesting thing is like as they're debating this, they see that there's something else on the radar and it looks human, and obviously you're like, oh, it's Aquaman, this is Arthur, and sure enough, like you get some pages of Arthur like sort of fighting back this tentacle creature. Back into it was a great 2-page spread where it's just Arthur, and he's fairly small on the side of the page, and it's just these giant tentacles, some of which are in shadow, and it's like him just like facing this thing back into the depths of the ocean. It is gorgeous.
It reminded me of when I was a kid and 20,000 Leagues was on, and Kirk Douglas goes out to fight the squid, and the squid just looks so much bigger.
Yeah, I'm trying to show off on the video for people.
Gotcha. But yeah, it just the sense of scale and then just the coloring. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and you see these extra blips in the water, and just like sort of the empty hallways of the submarine, and it's showing you just like this is such a great like crescendo to this big ending, and then there's like a little epilogue section that shows Yvette running out and seeing her father falling from like the boat that he's in when he's late home for dinner, and diving into the water to try and go and save him. And we presume she fails, that this is the tragic like passing of her father.
Mhm.
And then but there's another scene actually in present day on the submarine where it's her and the Russian again, and they're saying the captain's called everyone to the bridge, and he's like, yep, we're going forward, because they still want to turn back.
Mhm.
He's like, this but this is where he mentions the three navies. I said it earlier because the two
That's
scenes
okay.
blurred together in my head. But yeah, so like we're going to attempt first contact, so it ends in just sort of re-establishing what the thing is. If I have a small critique basically in the pacing, is that I don't know if we needed the epilogue. Like, see when it says Yvette and we get this flashback, I almost feel like this could have just been the start of book 2. I think just the quietness of the hallways after this big ending of Aquaman fighting away this like Kraken effectively, I think that is your perfect ending.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
So it's a minor quibble though, because there's nothing wrong with those last 4 or 5 pages. Like they're very good and they're still playing to the story. I just like these could have been the start of book 2.
So when the Kraken just suddenly appears and takes down the boat, I think it's funny because Esperanza means hope in Spanish. There's no more hope, right? Like, but it also reminded me of Sphere, the Michael Crichton story, right?
Sure.
Where there's a sphere underwater and it ends up, if I remember it right, it shows you your fears, or it gets into you. So I'm wondering if, not that necessarily this was this guy's fear, but he's reading a Kraken book. It scans him and it gives him a Kraken there. But why did it show up at that boat at the top and not to them in the sub? A lot of questions going on. But yeah, that's what that reminded me of.
Yeah, I love the build up to the Kraken scene because it is fairly quick, but if you actually go back and look at it, there is a couple of pages that build up to like a horror movie perfectly. Like you get like so the first page when it cuts back up to the boat is just the first panel is just the boat, and it's just like a flat color basically. Other than one little highlight that shows where there's light hitting the water, it's just a flat color, so it's like perfectly still and calm, right? So it's that horror movie thing where you're showing things are perfectly still and there's nothing happening. And then you can practically hear the beep of the radar when you look at the radar and the dots coming towards the middle. And then you get a little bit of a rumble, you get the fog, and then walking up on the deck in the fog, and then the tentacle pulls the one sailor out into the nothing, and then you get the big page. And then you get an even bigger page. So you get a tall page for the tentacle, which is one big page spread, basically. And then you get a big 2-page spread, which is the actual destruction of the boat. It is perfectly paced. The art is phenomenal. I'm trying to think if I like what I know of Christian Ward from. I feel like the name's popped up before, but I couldn't tell you what else I've seen Christian Ward art in.
Let's see, I can look.
I'll have a quick peek because I think this is perfect for the book, and I think the build of the crew and the build going towards this unidentified object, but then the big crescendo of the action set piece, and like this idea that Aquaman's this unknown element that comes in and like helps fight this thing back is very interesting. And obviously we should mention as well when Yvette's talking to the Russian guy and she's saying I'm a marine biologist and also a behavioral like expert or something like that, she says she sums it up by turning to him and saying I talk to fish, which is obviously a nice neat reference to Aquaman, but I actually think it's going to be a thing where her and Aquaman, when they eventually do have to interact, are going to find some common ground and get along because of this, I suspect. But I thought that was a really neat way of like her like summing that up. Was it just me, or did you get the impression that like the way they don't figure out or guess that this is Aquaman makes me think that Aquaman is not a known thing to most of the world?
That's what I was getting with the whole thing of him going up to that First Nations woman and that she knew who he was.
Yeah.
It's almost like he he lives on the outskirts, right?
Yeah, because obviously it feels like it's set in the future or some version of it, which makes you think, is this like him, like he's like been in hiding for a long time afterwards?
Right.
But at the same time, this could be like an alternate like origin where this is how he like becomes known to the world or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless, though, it doesn't feel like a world where like the Justice League exists. This feels like it's just a world where Aquaman and nothing else exists. Which is okay. Like, there's so many good like Batman Elseworlds and stuff where only Batman exists or only Superman exists. This is totally fine. Like, yeah.
So, Christian Ward's worked on Odyssey with Matt Fraction, which is a sci-fi retelling of the Odyssey. Invisible Kingdom with Willow, but also did Thor with Jason Aaron and Batman with Tynan. So I'm sure that's where we know some of his names from.
So I've probably read the Thor and Batman issues that he's done.
Yeah, and I'm looking here for his DC stuff. Suicide Squad Volume 2, which I don't know if we read that. Legend of the Swamp Thing, Halloween Spectacular, Batman Secret Files, The Gardener. That's where you know it. Urban Legends, he did a story.
Okay. So he's
Superman Red and Blue. These are all his DC works, yeah.
But I think you can tell from that list though why it's all these little one-off appearances where he's not stuck in my mind as like a. Whereas this is a great showpiece. I mean, obviously some of those other books you said will be showpieces as well, but I've not read them.
Yeah.
At DC, this is like a showpiece book where it's like, oh, this is going to be 3 issues of just like his art telling the whole story. And Ram V's writing, of course, has been excellent. He's one of our favorite writers right now at DC for good reason. Yeah, this like these Black Label books are like killing it recently. I like so many of them have been excellent. Like I'm floored. Like I really like Dark Crisis this week, but like this is sort of like just a special thing on its own that's just good.
I figured this was going to be very much your thing. When I was getting Aliens vibes, or at least Alien vibe, like it felt like they were on.
It's more Alien than Aliens because it's not like a team of soul. I would say it's a little Alien, but Alien's like a bunch of people who know each other. I would say it's got that unknown factor of Alien, but the crew feel a bit more like bizarre. The thing that's coming to my mind right now is Species, which is completely different. But the reason why I'm saying that is because it's the same thing where it's like a team of all these experts from different fields who are assembled to hunt like the alien in that movie. Obviously, it's not this like journey to a mysterious thing. Unfortunately, I've also seen Event Horizon recently, which is a journey to a mysterious ship. So, that movie's terrible though. Despite what people say, it's not his one good movie. All of Paul W.S. Anderson's movies are bad.
I just remembered as I was watching Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Dominion, I remember seeing Event Horizon when it came to home video because it had Sam Neill from Jurassic Park. And that movie was not for me at 12 whenever that came out. So yes.
No, it's not good.
Well, I just found Christian Ward did a very great Poison Ivy piece, which will now be my new background on my phone. So
yeah, obviously it's dealing with a lot of water. The book, it's got a lot of water in the backgrounds, or even sometimes it'll just be like around the panels when they're on the ship. You'll get like these panels, the background's just like the water. But it's very blue. There's like little hints of green or purple occasionally to give it a little bit of, just a bit of vibrancy and this kind of more artistic take on it, as opposed to just sort of this ultra realistic thing that's that some books go for. As it goes on, you really get this vibe from it, this sense of style, and like I say, the build and suspense right before the Kraken attack, I think, is exceptional. And it's where the book really sold me on what it was, because like I was enjoying kind of like getting to know the crew a little bit, getting to know Yvette and them like theorizing what their like the true intentions of this mission are, or if there's something mysterious going on. It's definitely my kind of story, but once it like got the Kraken stuff and it like everything ramped up at the end, I was like, okay, you know what? This was a perfect ramping up from nothing to something for a first issue. So yeah, but just the minor quibble that like I wasn't as into like the first Arthur section, but I think it's just because it's establishing that he is kind of this loner who doesn't really interact with the world beyond just this wanting to interact with them in secret in this little village. But other than that, and maybe it could have ended a few pages earlier and just kept the end for issue 2. But minor quibbles.
Yeah, it's very much and I said earlier in the show, but I'll say it again here. It's very much of Ram V's style from what I'm familiar with from his superhero books. It does feel like a novel. right? It feels very restrained where it needs to be. And the the narration and stuff don't feel like a traditional comic. The way that the narration set up, and how some of the characters talk, and it feels like a novel that way, which is very good because it makes it, it really makes the whole Black Label thing feel special, right? When it's not just typical superhero stuff. And it's cool that he can fit Aquaman into this.
There's definitely something to be said for a really well thought out prestige, 46 issue thing that like has all this time and effort put into it. It's allowed to just be its own thing with a consistent artist, and why that, in theory, should blow away most arcs of an ongoing comic book, because an ongoing comic book has so much time constraints and how it's made. Obviously, there's a lot of great ongoing comics, and it's kind of an art form in and of itself. But it's nice that DC have like offered this new line to really embrace just great individual stories, and this is another example of it. I mean, we've only had one issue of that Swamp Thing one in the future, but that was great. Harleen was something special. One Dark Knight I loved. The 2 issues we had of that so far. What was the other one that was just before that was great? There was another couple that I'm forgetting now because they're finished, but obviously Rogues has been great so far.
It's pretty great, yeah.
Like they've been knocking these out. It's been great. So what are you giving Aquaman Andromeda issue 1?
I'm giving this an 8.
Yeah, I'm going straight 9 on this bad boy.
There you go. There you go.
I love this issue 1. I highly recommend Aquaman Andromeda issue 1 to people. Ramvi is winning me. I mean, not that he hadn't won me over yet, but like, like I fell away from his Justice League Dark because I'm just not a big magic guy. But everything else he's done at DC has tickled my fancy, and clearly shows that his sensibilities appeal to my taste. Let's just say that.
Yes.
On top of his writing quality, which is obviously important.
You're probably thinking Batman the Imposter. That was Black Label.
Oh, yes, that was fantastic.
Yeah, there's that one. Let's see what else. I think that's the one you were talking about.
Probably that's probably the one that I was missing.
Mm-hmm.
But just tons of great shit, right? So keep them coming, DC, because if the day ever comes the mainline books get crap, we'll just start reading books from other publishers, but these Black Label books will be the highlight.
Yes.
So yeah. Hey, there was a time a couple of years ago when it did feel like the number of books we wanted to read was dwindling, and luckily obviously things refreshed again, and it was like, we're back up in numbers again. But there was a time where there was a serious thought of, it may just become a general comic book podcast where we read some stuff from other publishers, because if things get like they were towards the end of New 52 again, it's not impossible it could happen someday. But luckily Didio was let go and things worked out.
Everything they do, it's always so like Killing Time I initially didn't want to get into, right?
Oh yeah.
But then it's been like, oh well, now I have to read it. It's not good. And I was always going to check out Andromeda because it's Ram V, but it helps that it turned out to be this really cool sci-fi horror thing so far. Yeah, and
Ram V's about to start his run Detective Comics, which is freaking exciting.
That's going to bring the opera into it, which is like, what are you doing?
He's going to do the Phantom of the Paradise take on Batman, sure. All right, there you go. That is Aquaman Andromeda. That comes highly recommended. All right, Monkey Prince issue 5. Matt, you read this?
Yeah, so the end of the last issue, Penguin was by a demon. Batman came in and helped. They exorcised the demon out of Penguin, and now Marcus's parents, who are henchmen, move the family out of Gotham to Amnesty Bay, where things should be quieter. And Marcus is enrolling in a new school. He's worried he's going to run into Saifu Pigsy. Is he here in the town? But he calls his friend, the girl that's his love interest, because he wants to, he's upset that he had to move. So this is his one friend there. And as he's going to school, I'm trying to get through this. So Here we go. Start at the beginning.
Did you read this book, Matt?
No, I did, but it was at the beginning of the week, and it's been a minute. So, but at the beginning, it starts with this really cool looking, looks like a tapestry that kind of recounts the Monkey King and the journey to the West, where it talks about arrogant monkey, divine punishment, perilous journey, enlightened sage, and it's Marcus waking up from a dream, and his parents are on the way to Amnesty Bay, where they see Superman fly by, and the parents kind of duck under, and Marcus is kind of like, well, that's weird. Why would they do that? He sees this trip now as like, he didn't want to leave Gotham, but now he gets to have a fresh start. He asks the school janitor if, if there was a guy who's portly and kind of gassy that works there, and he's confused. And then this goth-looking girl with, kind of looks like Raven. She's real pale skin, purple hair up front. Ask him if he's the type of boy that likes bananas. And he's like, well, that girl's weird. We get that the parents moved to Amnesty Bay to work with Black Manta, who has another one of these demon boxes that he wants them to open, because these two come, they're mad scientists, that they come very highly recommended, and that they want him to open this box because there's a demon trapped inside, and it's like of this urn almost. And they decide that they're gonna open it, but they're gonna put it into something that can't hurt them, like Penguin was going to, because they still want to get paid. Marcus is on the phone with his, with the one girl, and the peer counselor, and the goth girl comes to him and is following him, and I'm thinking it's like, oh, this is a new love interest. Like, it's weird girl. She picks up his weird vibes. But then she tells him to take off his shirt, and he's on the phone with the girl. He's like, I gotta go. And the peer counselor, his friend, is like, oh, well, things are going well for you. He won't. So she tears his shirt off and sees his, the ringlet. And that she goes, oh yeah, I was right. You are. And then she grows rows of teeth like a demon and is like tasty monkey. This leads to a seaweed soup truck coming up to him as Marcus is running. And it's Shifu Pigsy. He's followed him to Amnesty Bay, who he's now driving a food truck for seaweed soup. He's like, you need to transform. He goes, it's kind of hard when you're being chased by a demon. He pulls off, transforms into Monkey Prince and fights this demon. Shifu gives him a staff because he saw how Robin, had fought with a staff, and that, his dad was good with one. But he ends up in the water, which is one of Marcus's big fears, which gives, the demon an edge. So he freaks out, transforms back, fights with the staff, and throws her into the water where she stays. And Shifu says, oh, you gotta go after her. And he's like, well, no, you can't. And, I can't. I'm afraid of the water. Come to find out that this girl isn't a demon, as we see. Her name is Shelastria, who is a half trench, half human, or half something, whose father is the king of the trench. And that if this monkey prince is walking, that means the old Chinese legends are true, and that the trench can obtain this immortal power. And all they need to do is eat him to get this power. And that's where it ends. And it says next up is Sea Dragons.
I wasn't expecting some weird like Aquaman tie-in lore.
I was not. I mean, once I got to Amnesty Bay and I saw them working for Black Manta, I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Of course they would move there. Not expecting, when she grew all the teeth, I was like, oh, she's a demon. And we've seen this before, right? We saw that in Gotham. Was not expecting the trench at all. So I hope how we had, Batman and Robin making cameos. I'm hoping we see the Aquaman. I'd like to see Jackson interact with Monkey Prince, because I feel like he knows something about having parents that are not on the up and up, and hiding stuff from him and who he really is. And Shifu's still saying like, well, no, you're real dad. And he goes, no, these are my real dad. So there's something going on with with how he was conceived, right? Whereas, well, was he actually adopted? Was the mom, with the monkey prince, and that's where he comes from? You know, there's a lot of mysteries that are still being seeded, but it does remind me of when we read New Superman, and that Yang is constantly, throwing these like fun moments in that still create this character. So having the Trent show up, not expected, and should make for some fun because, now the kid who's afraid of water and it's kind of his weakness, he is surrounded by it. So and the villains are coming from it. But yeah, the art's really good. It's still the same. I'm drawing a blank on the artist. It's Yang and I want to say it's Chang. Yeah, it's Chang. And it's still up on the up and up. I like the way that it switches from Marcus, where the first page is very flat kind of art, like old style, almost like a tapestry, to the more filled out and not rounded, because what's the opposite of flat art? The shade and depth. That's the word more. It's the art's more deep and the colors are vibrant. So, but yeah, no, I'm gonna give this 7.5.
All right, cool. So one last book to talk about then. Every month, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can, of course, at one of the higher tiers, make myself or Connor read a book. And of course, you'll be used to be hearing me say that by now. Before I talk about Animal, this is issue 20 of the Grant Morrison run. The last issue had a huge cliffhanger ending where Buddy came back and his wife and children were murdered. Shot dead.
No. Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, it was super violent, the end of the last issue. I mean, you didn't see it happen, but it was a really dark ending. So the villain had been kind of teasing for a couple of issues. I've forgotten his name, but it'll come up when I'm looking through the book. Mr. Lodix? I'll find it in a minute. Anyway, so this issue is a depressing read. So obviously, I know the wife and kids are back at some point because every Animal Man I've ever read set after this is, they're still there. So I presume there's going to be some wacky things out the end of this, or maybe I don't know, when Zero Crisis happen in relation to this? Is that later? Maybe.
0 Hour happens in 92. I don't know when this is being.
No, 0 Hour. Yeah, I said Zero Crisis.
Yeah, I know what you meant though. But yeah, so this is late 80s still, right? So this is 89, 90.
Oh, I say, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So maybe that fixes that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a depressing issue because this man has just found his wife and children dead, and the issue starts and it does this thing. It does this a lot during the issue actually, where a scene will start with Buddy, where it starts with a black panel that kind of transitions into the next panel, where it's sort of like a. It's like a thick black box, but then there's a thinner one and a couple of thin ones, as if it's sort of fading into a panel almost, but with sort of stark lines. And the first one is just this him, he's waking up and he's seeing Ellen, and he's like, "Oh, thank God you're okay. I had a horrible dream, something horrible happened to you." But then it does the black transition again, but into the black, and then the next page it starts with the black transition, and it's him just sitting there zoning out. And it's Roger and Roger's wife talking to him and saying, "Hey, buddy, you okay? You need to drink something." And he's just sitting there in shock. And there's a lot of scenes of this issue where it's him with other people, and every scene with them starts with this art technique of starting with a black panel that then transitions into the first panel. And so the effect that it has is that every single scene feels like it's starting with him coming out of being in a trance where he's just zoned out and he's not thinking about what's in front of him because he's in shock. His wife and kids are dead. And that effect is so strong and consistent throughout the book. It's really well done. It's just a simple little thing, but it's there in every single scene that Buddy's in. It starts with that. And yeah, the other characters are upset and saying, they're all dead. And it does the transition to black a couple of times where it transitions in time where he's then lying in bed and they're telling him he needs to sleep. And they're talking about making arrangements for a funeral and stuff like that, but he's lying there in bed and he's having flashes of his wife and kids, and he's got tears going down his eyes, and and he's remembering the last things he said to them, and then it's just awful. People are trying to get him to eat, and it's not happening. There's a panel of him like lying in the fetal position on the bathroom floor, just saying no, 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 and this like black effect, this transition effects on either side of the panel. So it makes it feel like he's being closed in on the entire time throughout the entire issue. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like this feeling of grief being this like tormenting force that is like consuming him is like present the entire time. It is so good. I'll just say it. I think this is the best issue of this run.
Yeah, it makes it feel like it's actually real, right? Like he's a person really going through it instead of a character you're reading.
The last issue is the one that I think everyone kept saying, "Oh, that's the issue. That's the issue everyone remembers and talks about." I think this is a better issue. And that's not to downplay what the last issue was.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a craft perspective and like getting across the feeling that the character's going through, I think this issue is an even bigger highlight. So, and it does cut to Lennox, that was the guy's name, sorry, the villain. Mr. Lennox in his suit. He goes back to the people that he was working for, who look very governmental, that they've got like the hawk behind them, but they're all in silhouette and shadow, so you don't know exactly who it is, necessarily. And he's like, yeah, the job's done. And they're like, well, should I worry about superheroes coming after me? Because I don't really want to deal with that. He's like, you don't have to worry about that, Mr. Lennox. And they introduce him to like a mech suit, which they call Bugman. It's this big robotic thing. And we don't really have the context for what this is going to do, other than maybe it's designed to fight superheroes. But like they do a demonstration with it a little bit later. But that's the end of that scene for now. Meanwhile, at Arkham Asylum, Psycho Pirate's freaking out. And he's yelling, they're coming back, all of them, they're all coming back. Which is what I took that as like, if he's talking about characters coming back because of a crisis, I was thinking, maybe this is like how the wife and kids come back as well. But obviously this is treated here more of like a scary thing because he's terrified of like everything coming back. So that I don't know if this is just a tease for this book or if this is like tying into something that was more of a DC line-wide thing at the time. I suspect it might have been because it's interfered with the book a couple of times. So that context is maybe something that people can give me in the comments or on Twitter. But yeah, so again, we have that transition effect in and out of the scene where, you know, like Buddy's talking to, do we know who this is actually? This guy with the mustache? I'm not actually sure. But he's talking about how, you know, he lost his family to Nazis, and Buddy's like crying, and he's trying to like relate to him, and he's trying to talk about you know, getting over it, but the guy who rescued him ended up dying in Auschwitz. So it's again, when I said this issue is depressing, I really meant it. It is a depressing issue.
Yep.
And Buddy's looking at the photo of his family. The cat's trying to like snuggle up to him, but he's just got tears going down his face. There's a funeral scene where they're standing there. He tells Jean that he has to like take a time out and leave the JLI, and Jean's like, I understand, kind of thing. And Buddy's like, I don't understand anything. So this depression and grief are just like coming for him like heavily. And there's a scene where like there's policemen round like asking to like look around the house to try and figure out who killed the family, and they say they suspect that whoever it was came through the teleporter tube that he's got in the basement to the Justice League like satellite. We know that's not true. We know that Lennox just chapped on the front door. But this is the theory they've got because they didn't set off any of the house defenses. So, but the whole thing is just like, you know, Buddy's got his hand against the tube and he's like banging on it, and it's like he feels like they have no leads. They don't know who did this. They don't have any names to follow. It's all a big mystery. From here we see the big bug mech suit like destroying pillars and like test subjects and dummies. But yeah, and they're basically just like joking about, why did we call it Bugman? I think it's the eyes. It looks kind of bug-like. And it's just this thing. So it's like, you know, it contrasts with. I think it makes you infuriated as a reader. I think it's really smart actually in the writing, because like this villain side of things, it's in a couple of scenes, is this big ridiculous mech like bug suit, and they're talking about, oh, this will take care of the superheroes. I think the fact that they're being so flippant and cracking jokes about their silly robot mech suit makes you hate them more, because they're behind the murder of Ellen and the kids. So you're pissed at them, and they're being flippant, and they're being cocky, and they don't give a shit about what they've done. And it just makes you angrier, because you see what Buddy's going through, and then you see what they're doing. So, really smart. I think it's a really well-constructed issue in that sense. So, yeah, so just, if you want to like, get a sense of how depressing this issue gets, towards the end of the issue, Buddy is telling his dog, Skipper, that he can't take it anymore, and he's going to take some pills to commit suicide. So the end of the issue is that he's looking in the mirror, he's got the pills in his hand, and he wants to take them, but he ends up like headbutting the mirror, and like he's got like a cut in his head. He's still looking down at the pills, but then the phone rings. And the end of the issue, the big cliffhanger, is a Scottish accent, of all things, saying, "Animal Man, how's it going, pal? I've got some names you might be interested in hearing." And obviously Grant Morrison writing it is why the Scottish slang's good, but the "how's it going, pal," the like really Scottish. And we know the what do we call him, Mirror Master, was talking to Lennox a few issues ago and knows something. So he's saying that, hey, I may have some information that'll help. And Buddy, for the first time in the issue, like perks up and says, "What did you say?" And so it's the idea that he's got a lead at the end of the issue that actually keeps him alive, which is really sad in a lot of ways. That the revenge or you could say justice, but I feel like he's probably not thinking clearly right now.
Vengeance.
Yeah, but like I think it's interesting that this is like there's so much scratchy detail in so many of the pages, and it has this black transition in and out of every scene. This is the only one that doesn't end like that, because it's just, it's the end of the issue and it's a full page spread, but it's this idea that for the first time, he's not been in this like stupor, feeling grief. He's got like a focus. Like he's like, for the first time, it's like, oh wait, what? No, I've got a purpose. No, there's something I can do.
Something to pull him out of the grief, because he has something else to focus on.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I love this issue. This was like a 10, basically, maybe a 9.5. I think it does such a good job of making you feel like Buddy, making you angry at the villains, and making it feel like he's on this spiraling and that everything doesn't mean anything. And then the final page just kind of pulls you, or the final 2 pages, that final scene, pulls you into it. Oh, now there's a direction, and like this unlikely source for helpful information. And I'm sure he's got his own motivations. I'm sure, like, this is not a heroic gesture on behalf of Mirror Master, but it doesn't matter. This unlikely source is this lifeline that Buddy needed in the moment, and I think it's expertly crafted. You're sort of on the hook the entire time, and you feel this like just depressing thing. And it's just when he's looking down at the pills, the dog's looking up at him, and it's like the saddest thing ever. This idea of the sympathy of the animals who are just trying to be nice to Buddy. He's Animal Man, so it's extra, on point. It's on brand. But the idea that they're trying to be nice to him and make him feel better, and he's not receptive to it. In the same way that anyone, when they're going through like some severe grief, isn't receptive to their friends, isn't receptive to the people around them. They're just like in their own head because
just leave me alone. I need to be sad.
So this is fantastic. Issue 20. Yeah, I'll give it a 10. I think it's the best issue of the run so far. I think it's basically flawless and achieves exactly the feelings that it wants to achieve. So the murder of the wife and kids was a bit of a out of nowhere like cliffhanger last issue, and they were teasing something with Lennox, but they weren't necessarily teasing that he was going after his family. So it was kind of a shock, and this issue sold it, because this issue was like, no, this treated it like the devastating action that it was. So there you go. That's Animal Man issue 20. Fantastic. So very good stuff. So yeah, that'll take us out the part of the show. We pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. So Matt, what was your panel/moment of the show? Of the week, rather.
Yeah, this week had some good ones. The Monkey Prince had some funny ones. Andromeda had some real pretty ones. There was some good stuff in Ivy, but it's going to be from Dark Crisis, and it's going to be the recruiting page, just because there's faces on there I was not expecting.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it leads to the reveal of who is joining the Justice League. Also, the shout out to the Booster Gold and Blue Beetle fist bump at the bottom right corner that just says bros. That cracked me up.
Of course. Like that's Matt bait, basically.
Yeah, right? So yeah.
I mean, you got that, and you got like Poison Ivy in 1 week, so you're you're being pandered to, dare I say.
Happy.
Yeah, I'm conflicted because I think that the Kraken sort of build up and reveal in Aquaman Andromeda is phenomenal, but the DC fan that I am really wants the moment, the page turn basically, where Black Adam says there's only one, you're not qualified to lead a Justice League, but and we both know who is, and then you turn the page and it's Dick Grayson. Like that's it's the camera cut that you get in like a movie. Yep. You turn the page and it's Nightwing. I kind of want to pick that, but I think I'm still going to go with the Kraken and Andromeda. But I'm very conflicted about which one I wanted to go with there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cover of the week. I will say that I basically have a couple of choices from Dark Crisis and a variant from Batman that I'm eyeing up here. The Delotto cover from Batman, which is like a really lush painted one, but it's Batman in the blue cape. Is pretty stunning. And then for Dark Crisis, there's a Redondo cover, which is Nightwing at the front and foremost of it, with all the rest of the Bat family behind him, which I think
it's a Nightwing cover, and I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But there's also a surprisingly stunning one of Pariah. It's Steve Beach, and it's like Pariah with like all the darkness coming out of his eyes and mouth. That is a beautiful cover.
It's very creepy.
Yeah, it's very creepy and disturbing, but it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
As a piece of art goes. I think I'm actually going to go with the Pariah one, honestly. All in. Even though I love those other two. But so it's the Dark Crisis Steve Beach variant, which is the 1 in 50 incentive variant. What you got?
So I just want to shout out the Monkey Prince main cover because it's a Jaws parody.
Oh, cool.
It's hilarious, but it's got a dragon coming up on him. But it's going to be Poison Ivy, and it's the Robles 1 in 25. That was my phone background for months until I recently changed it.
Well, since it's solicited, I assume.
Yes, and so it is just fantastic, and it was such an up price that I couldn't buy it. I really wanted to, but can't justify $25 on a comic just for the cover. So I'll just deal with the digital version. But yeah, fantastic cover.
Yeah. All right. Best art of the week. Do you have anything for that?
So, Marquez for Killing Time is up there. Takara for Ivy. Dark Crisis. That was really good. Sampere. But it's hard to go against Andromeda and Christian Ward because it's the full package. It's the colors. It's the inking. It's everything that effectively tells that story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have to agree. Like, Christian Ward had this in the bag pretty... And it's not that there's not other good art this week, because there is. You named them, pretty much. But, yeah, it has to be Ward. It has to be Andromeda. It's phenomenal. So there you go. So top 5 books of the week then, Matt. Go.
All right. So number 1's going to be Dark Knight of Steel. Number 2's going to be Killing Time. 3 is Poison Ivy. 4 is Dark Crisis. 5 is Andromeda. But those... The numbers between those are all very close. Those are all 8.5 to 8.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a weird order for me, actually. So my top 5, my number 1 is Andromeda. My number 2 is Dark Crisis. My number 3 is... I'll go... Killing Time. Number 4, Dark Knight of Steel, and then number 5. See, I don't have Poison Ivy to be that 5th one. That's great. So I'm basically left with either Flashpoint Beyond or Batman. I mean, I got more entertainment out of Flashpoint Beyond, I suppose. So I'm going to go with that.
There you go.
Yeah, because I read 6 books. That makes sense. Yeah, so it's between those two. All right, cool. But there you go. That is the picks. So I'll tell you what's coming next week, everyone, from DC Comics. So coming next week, we have Wonder Woman 788. We have Superman Son of Kal-El issue 12. Batman Urban Legends issue 16. Batgirls issue 7. Jurassic League issue 2. I Am Batman issue 10. Future State Gotham issue 14. The Sandman Universe Nightmare Country issue 3. DC Pride Tim Drake special, which is mostly a reprint, but with one new story.
Piece. Yeah, that's the story from Urban Legends.
Yeah. And then Naomi season 2 issue 4. So a bit of a weird week in that we're reading some different things, but yeah, so we've got interesting stuff, and there's a good chance Solicits will be on next week's episode, I think. So
probably.
But that's okay. So that is the plan. So I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you very much to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Boardnow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Treisman, and Alison M. Fordyce. They're all at the producer tier on Patreon, but you can support us for as little as $1 per month at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. The bonuses are for all the different things that we do at MailFuzz Movies and TV. So you can see a lot of other things there, and check out the other podcasts if you're interested. But for this show in particular, you get early access to the show. You get it whenever it's ready on the Saturday night, before the actual release on the Sunday. So if that's of interest and you want to support the show and the content, please do head over and have a look. Otherwise, though, like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications on YouTube, rate this podcast 5 stars with a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. And of course, you can get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. But that about does it. So that has been episode 309.
There we go.
It was an eventful one, and I think it's the first one that hit 3 hours, just barely, but it hit 3 hours, and all well.
A lot of BS at the beginning too.
Yeah, but there always is.
Yes. Yeah, but there's particularly a lot because we're talking about TV and games and The Rock a lot. So maybe Paige will listen to this now since we talked about the Rock so much, and Connor's not on it.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's an incentive that Connor's not on it.
Connor's not on it, and there's a lot of talk about The Rock. So I don't know a lot about Paige, but I do know that she likes The Rock from Connor being drugged to various action movies. So.
Yeah. Fair enough. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
But there you go. That is the show. That is Comics From The Multiverse. Thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
And The Rock says, drink Zoa.